Chapter 246. Jing Xiu's mood was complicated. She even wanted to tell Jing Yunjiao the other truth. A long time ago, she heard her parents mention that she did have an elder sister. After she was born, she was indeed lost by her grandmother. However, she was left in the mountains. Her parents went to look for her, but she was already dead. They even buried her. However, this matter was not auspicious, so outsiders did not know. She didn't hear those words clearly at that time, so there might be some discrepancies. However, she was sure that Jing Yunjiao was not her elder sister. Moreover, a few days ago, her parents were suddenly very happy. They said that they met a benefactor. In the future, they would have money to build a building for her brother. Then, on the same day, they told the three of them that there was an elder sister outside. She didn't know much, but she knew that her parents wouldn't dote on their daughter. It was strange that they were so anxious to recognize someone who wasn't their biological daughter. Jing Xiu opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something, but in the next second, she was pulled by Jing Taijun and thrown to the back like a fallen leaf. Wang Xian Fong also followed, wringing Jing Xiu's body and bringing her home, stuffing her into the house. I've implicated you. Why don't you leave first? After you leave, I can leave. Jing Yunjiao said apologetically. If these villagers were angry, it was very likely that they would fight until their eyes turned red. It wouldn't be good if they hurt the two of them. If it was just her, although it would be difficult, her ability was barely enough. Li Xiaoyun chuckled. You think I'm here to cause trouble for you? You follow Du Lin. Today, I'll let you see what it means to hold back 10,000 men. As he spoke, he pulled his collar and clenched his fists. His eyes were cold. With this aura, it was obvious that he was a martial artist. Jing Yunjiao's heart trembled. His eyes lit up. You know martial arts? Is there anything I don't know? You think I'm like Du Lin, only eating? Li Xiaoyun sneered. Speaking of which, if others knew that he came all the way back just to fight with this group of uncivilized barbarians, they would laugh themselves to death. However, he didn't know what had happened to him. Looking at this group of people, he was angrier than looking at those real murderous demons. Li Xiaoyun's expression was frighteningly cold. Jing Yunjiao was a martial artist. When he released his aura, he immediately felt a sense of crisis. His heart was filled with shock. Looking at Li Xiaoyun's usual appearance, she really thought that this guy was just a rich and powerful playboy. In addition, before he left Huaning County, he had been bedridden because of the car accident. This caused her to even think that his body was extremely weak and that he was simply a sick playboy. But now, it seemed that he had made a mistake. I don't need Du Lin's protection. Let's each protect our own. Don't underestimate me. Jing Yunjiao swept away the dark clouds and smiled. Behind them, Du Lin was sweating profusely, especially when Li Xiaoyun said that Jing Yunjiao would follow him. His legs almost went soft. He was just a little chef. All these years, he had learned a few moves from Li Xiaoyun, but he had never put them to good use. Facing these shovels and rakes, would he be beaten to a pulp? Du Lin was nervous. He only saw Li Xiaoyun's figure moving at an extremely fast speed. His hands grabbed the opponent's weapon, and his feet landed on the opponent's chest. In the next second, the person was kicked far away. Li Xiaoyun had learned killing moves, but these people were just ordinary villagers. He could teach them a lesson, but he couldn't let them bleed. He didn't feel good. But when he saw Jing Yunjiao from the corner of his eyes, his gaze paused. He didn't know who she had snatched the wooden stick from. She raised her hand and hit them accurately, causing them to cry out in pain. From the looks of it, she could completely control the situation by herself. On the other hand, Du Lin hid behind her, looking like he was cheering her on. But it was obvious that Du Lin's actions made Jing Yunjiao apprehensive. She looked like a hen protecting her chick. Du Lin was simply pretending to be weak. Li Xiaoyun's eyes flickered. In the next second, he threw Du Lin away from Jing Yunjiao's side. He stood behind Jing Yunjiao and began to grin. Left, right again. Chapter 247. Du Lin was thrown 2 meters away and was almost hit on the head by someone. He was so scared that his whole body trembled. However, he knew some martial arts and reflexively retaliated. Only then did he realize that he was far from being as weak as he thought. He was a little excited for a moment. Every man has a hero hidden in his heart. At this moment, Du Lin felt that his figure was incomparably tall. However, when he saw Li Xiaoyun's appearance, he couldn't bear to look at him. He replaced his position and stood behind Jing Yunjiao. However, his slender height had some advantage. Although he seemed to be protected by Jing Yunjiao, he actually blocked all the attacks from behind. His eyes seemed to be able to see the movements of everyone around him. Once someone attacked from behind, he would immediately alert Jing Yunjiao. Occasionally, he would even make a move. Jing Yunjiao was also somewhat helpless. Didn't he know martial arts? However, seeing that he was implicated because of her, she endured it. Anyway, these people didn't have any lethality to her. The scene was chaotic, but there was no suspense. The originally bloodthirsty villagers rushed forward without fear, but as expected, each and every one of them was beaten until they covered their heads and scurried away like rats. The way they looked at Jing Yunjiao had changed. This Jing Yunjiao was simply like a martial arts master in a TV series. They couldn't even straighten their backs in a few minutes. How could they continue to fight? Du Lin couldn't help but think of a game of whack-a-mole. Looking at Jing Yunjiao's serious expression while holding a wooden stick, it was impossible not to pass. In less than half an hour, those aggressive villagers were all defeated. Jing Taijun looked at his relatives who were beaten up to the point that they couldn't fight back. His body trembled. They were all injured. Later on, wouldn't they ask for medical fees? It was simply not worth the loss. Disobedient and unfilial. These are all your elders, Jing Yunjiao. You really dare. Wang Xian Fong yelled at the top of her lungs. Why wouldn't I dare? You guys were armed and attacked. I was just defending myself. Jing Yunjiao coldly swept over. He didn't give them any face. She didn't hit them hard. It was also to teach these people a lesson. She, Li Xiaoyun, and Du Lin knew martial arts. That was why they were unharmed. However, what if they didn't know martial arts? Wouldn't he be beaten up by these people? Moreover, it was one thing for them to fight, but they were holding weapons. If they made a mistake, they might lose their lives. Being stared at by Jing Yunjiao, Wang Xinfang's heart trembled. Among so many people, the only ones who hadn't been beaten were the couple and the children who were watching from afar. No one dared to approach within 5 meters. Jing Yunjiao directly threw the wooden stick in his hand. It hit the ground with a dang a sound, which made everyone's heart jump. He turned around and left. Jing Taijun and Wang Xinfang were so angry that their hearts were burning. But they had hit and scolded, and they couldn't coax her back. What else could they do? Not to mention the mess, everyone was injured. Although the neighbors had volunteered, in order to maintain a good relationship in the future, they had to buy some fruits and ointment and visit each house. Jing Tiejuan's steps were heavy, and the couple supported each other as they walked home. Once they reached home, Jing Mingkai came over. Just now, his parents didn't let him go out for fear of hurting him, so he didn't know what was going on outside. But now that his parents were back, they didn't see that annoying big sister. As for Jingling, she naturally hoped that her parents would catch Jing Yunjiao. After all, although this big sister wasn't as gentle as her second sister, she seemed to have a lot of good things. With her parents here, big sister's things would definitely become hers. Anyway, Xiao Ming, a boy, couldn't use them. Mom, why didn't you bring big sister back? She even took my car. Chapter 248. Jing Kai took it as a matter of course. Thinking about the new toy he got today, he couldn't accept it. It was clearly given to him, but Jing Yunjiao took it all away. Stingy bastard. I'll buy you one later. It's all because of you today. If you hadn't asked for her bag, things wouldn't have turned out like this. Wang Xinfang was irritated. She turned around and opened the door, entering the room where Jing Xiu was locked up. Mom. Jing Xiu's face was cautious. There was a red mark on her face. It was clear how hard she was hit. Wang Xianfang looked outside. Seeing the other 2 children playing with their own things, she let out a sigh of relief. She then asked, "What's the matter with what you said today? She's an outsider. Why are you so protective? Did Mom raise you for nothing all these years?" Thinking about Jing Yunjiao, she didn't think much of it, but she felt that her daughter knew something. Jing Xiu panicked and shook her head in fear. Mom, I'm wrong. Of course you're wrong. I don't know what sin I committed in my past life to give birth to useless brats like you. You're all a waste of money. Let me tell you, your big sister is the reason why our family can't build a building. Maybe you can continue to go to school, but if you don't understand and lose the money in your hands, you'll see how I'll deal with you. Wang Xian Fong warned. Jing Xiu panicked. Her small body trembled. Tears fell down. She was scared and panicked, but more than that, she was conflicted. What her parents did was wrong. Although she didn't know what they wanted to do, her big sister wasn't happy that she accepted this family. She wasn't their daughter, but she had to suffer like her. It wasn't fair. Wang Xian Fong looked at her daughter's pitiful appearance and let out a sigh of relief. She had looked forward to this child so much, but later, she hated her so much. After she married into the Jing family, she couldn't get pregnant for 3 or 4 years. The pressure made her collapse several times. Everyone in the neighborhood looked at her strangely. She didn't even dare to leave the house. Her mother-in-law was especially fierce. She used the word grandson to torture her every day. Later, she finally had an elder brother. When she thought she could finally become the master, she didn't expect to give birth to a brat. The word disappointed wasn't enough to express her feelings. If her mother-in-law didn't throw the child away, she might have gone crazy and strangled her to death. At that time, her husband found the dead child and buried her on the mountain. At that time, she heaved a sigh of relief. She always felt that with her eldest daughter dead, her bad luck should also be over. In the future, she would definitely be able to give birth to sons continuously. Sure enough, she didn't have to wait too long before she got pregnant again. She even thought of a name for her son and told everyone she met that it would definitely be a son. Who knew that it would be a daughter? At that time, her mother-in-law had already passed away, so Jing Xiu was alive and well. Then came Jing Ling, and finally Jing Mingkai. The pressure she had endured over the years was not something that could be explained in a few words. Jing Mingkai was her life, while Jing Xiu and Jing Ling were her debt collectors. They were her enemies from her past life, reincarnated just to anger her to death. Luckily, Lauda was gone. Otherwise, if she really ended up like Jing Yunzhao, she might not even be able to live until now. Even though Jing Xiu's head was lowered, she could still feel her mother's displeased gaze, which made her afraid. Cry, cry, cry. You only know how to cry all day long. Our family's fortune is all gone because of your crying. Wang Xian Fong scolded a few times. She stretched out her hand and hit Jing Xiu's temple hard. Chapter 249. Jing Xiu had long been used to this kind of unfair treatment. She could be hit or scolded without fighting back, but in her heart, she was vaguely envious of Jing Yunzhao, this fake elder sister. She was so powerful and so disobedient. If only she could, but in an instant, she shook her head and sighed at such a young age. If it was her, she would definitely be beaten to death by her parents. Jing Xiu continued to deal with the housework with a heavy heart. On the other side, Jing Yunzhao and Li Xiaoyun were already on their way back to the county. Du Lin was driving while Li Xiaoyun was playing with the remote-controlled car that Jing Yunzhao bought with a faint smile on his face. You sure are kind, buying such a good gift for a brother you've never met before. If this young master didn't come today, wouldn't this gift of yours be like throwing a meat bun at a dog, gone with no return? If they weren't present, although Jing Yunzhao would have left, he wouldn't have taken the gift with him. He hated being taken advantage of the most, especially by people he disliked. These gifts were nothing in his eyes, but let alone a few hundred yuan. Even if it was just 1 yuan, he wouldn't be willing to give it. It was simply spending money to find trouble for himself. Young Master Li, you're rich and overbearing. How can these toys be called meat buns in your eyes? Don't joke around. Besides, it's Yunzhao's first day of reuniting with his family, so it's only right to be polite. I just didn't expect that family to bully him like this. But this time, they've kicked an iron plate. Du Lin ridiculed as he drove. Today, he was addicted to it. He thought that the tricks that young Master Li taught him over the years were useless, but who knew that they were quite powerful? Li Xiaoyun let go of his hand and snorted. He opened the window and casually threw the car out along the mountain road. Du Lin raised his eyebrows and didn't say anything. With young Master Li's temper, he wasn't surprised. It was just throwing a small toy. If he was really angry, killing someone would be as easy as blinking an eye. Speaking of which, why didn't you tell young Master Li that you were reuniting with your family? Even if you didn't tell him, you should have told me. We're business partners and close friends, right? Du Lin said unhappily. Last night, Li Xiaoyan had woken him up with a phone call. Only then did he know that Jing Yunzhao had found his biological parents. Young Master Li had connections in Huaning County, so it wouldn't be difficult for him to find out. Otherwise, she would have to face those people alone. Although it was a good thing to be independent, she was still a young girl. She couldn't be too mature. Even outsiders like them felt sorry for her, let alone young Master Li. He didn't know what Li Xiaoyan meant, but he knew that Li Xiaoyan treated Jing Yunzhao differently. However, he didn't know how different it was. But no matter what, it was the first time he saw Li Xiaoyan care so much about someone else. I didn't expect them to be so impatient today, Jing Yunzhao said softly, but that's good. We don't have to be so hypocritical in the future. Although she found it a little hard to accept their enthusiastic fawning before, one would not slap a smiling face. It was not good to treat them too coldly. Now that everyone's intentions were out in the open, there was no need to put on an act. She believed that this pair of parents wouldn't be stupid enough to take the warm route with her. It was even hard to say if they would meet again in the future. But thinking of this, Jing Yunzhao suddenly thought of Li Xiaoyan's words before. In addition to the suspicions she had these days, that thought began to stir. After thinking for a while, she finally opened her mouth and asked, "Young Master Li, you can forge an identification report?" Chapter 250. She felt that everything was too much of a coincidence, but if the piece of paper she believed in could be easily forged, Jing Yunzhao's heart sank. Li Xiaoyan glanced at her. Some authoritative hospitals won't tamper with it, and it's very confidential. However, not all hospitals can adhere to their duties. Since you've brought it up, I might as well remind you not to be too naive when it comes to judging people. Instead of tolerating the sudden appearance of those parents, why don't you think carefully about who you've offended? Li Xiaoyan's words made Jing Yunzhao even more suspicious. In both her lives, she had only been to Serene City once. It could be said that although she had been reborn, her knowledge had not changed. Thus, when she saw the test results, she believed them without a doubt and did not doubt the authenticity of this matter at all. But now, she had to think about it more. The way these parents looked at her was too utilitarian. They had met her on the streets and did not know how she had been supporting herself. They did not even know what kind of life she had been living all these years. However, they only mentioned her adoptive parents and did not ask any more questions. Even when she gave away nearly 1,000 yuan worth of gifts, they did not have any suspicions. It was as if it was natural. However, logically speaking, it was very abnormal for a child who had cut ties with her adoptive parents to take out half of the money for the test and give away so many gifts. They did not ask about the origin of her money and asked her to drop out of school to support her family as soon as she returned home. This way of thinking did not seem to care about her ability to support herself or her family, but whether she dropped out of school or not. Rather than saying that they were her parents, they were more like her enemies. "Did you find out something?" Jing Yunzhao asked directly. Li Xiaoyan raised his eyebrows and smiled. "Are you asking me for something?" Jing Yunzhao was speechless. Every time she saw Li Xiaoyan's expression, she felt that this man was not serious. Who asked him to have the face of a playboy? Fortunately, after spending so much time together in the hospital, her feelings for him had improved a lot. She did not feel nauseous because of an occasional close action. "You threw away the things I bought just now. Even though it wasn't expensive, it had a lot of meaning to me. If you tell me the truth, then we'll call it even." Jing Yunzhao shrugged. She had learned how to be thick-skinned. "Meant a lot." Li Xiaoyan repeated the sentence in a strange tone, and then casually continued with a faint smile. "The meaning is indeed not ordinary. It can be considered as the first lesson that you bought with money. But are you going to take it back and look at it every day to learn from the mistakes of others?" "Kind of," Jing Yunzhao replied. "Then let's drive back. I promise to pick up the things for you." But Li Xiaoyan's expression was flamboyant, and he changed the topic. "Today, because of you, I was scolded for being heartless for the first time in my life. I was even called a wild man. By the way, I haven't fully recovered from the injuries I suffered in the car accident. When I fought today, it seemed that I was injured again. Now that you mention it, this young master feels that I can't exert any strength in my body. My mind is haggard and my spirit has been greatly stimulated. Tell me, what should I do? Li Xiaoyun continued to yell at the top of his voice. The corner of Jing Yunzhao's mouth twitched as she stared at him. She had already branded Li Xiaoyun's image in her mind as a hooligan. I'm a doctor. I don't mind treating you. Maybe I can prolong your life. You won't get sick in the future. So, in general, you won't lose anything if you answer my questions seriously. Jing Yunzhao thought and said casually. Chapter 251. In the front seat, Du Lin listened to the two people bickering and felt that he couldn't get a word in edgewise. In the past, Jing Yunzhao and Li Xiao were taciturn when talking to him. Now, the two of them had become chatterboxes when they met. Li Xiaoyun lightly snorted as he leaned against the back seat. His ordinary and mediocre movements were exceptionally pleasing to the eye. It just so happened that he was still hugging the two plush dolls Jing Yunzhao had bought previously, creating a strange scene. Li Xiaoyun didn't continue to tease her and stopped before going too far. His slightly tired face had a bit of seriousness as he said, "Since the great doctor is responsible for the rest of my life, then I'll confess honestly. I heard that you were in a bad mood yesterday, so I got someone to investigate after hanging up the phone. I found out that you went to Ning City to do a paternity test with a pair of parents. I also got someone to investigate your parents and found something interesting." Li Xiaoyun paused and continued. This paternity test result wasn't taken at the hospital. It was given to them by a woman in a coffee shop. As for this woman, people call her Mrs. He. This Mrs. He only has one daughter, but not long after her daughter went to school in Huaning County, she got into trouble and was sent abroad. Li Xiaoyun didn't deliberately check whether the paternity test was real or fake. He only mentioned Mrs. He's situation. But Jing Yunzhao immediately understood. Unless she was stupid, how could she continue to believe that her parents were related to her by blood? She didn't think that the paternity test could be faked. She was simply naive to the extreme. But now that Li Xiaoyun said this, Jing Yunzhao only felt that the anger in her heart had disappeared in an instant. If they were her biological parents, no matter how much she resisted, she couldn't get rid of this relationship. Even if they didn't have the slightest bit of affection for her, they would always stand at the top of morality. And no matter what she did at that time, she would be the one to be spurned. Moreover, she had been neglected by her adoptive parents all these years. If her biological parents were to do the same, then she really wanted to cry but had no tears. Li Xiaoyun, thank you, but can you help me with something else? Jing Yunzhao asked after thinking for a while. Speak, Li Xiaoyun said proudly. Do another paternity test for me. Be sure to tell the truth. Since you're in Jingdu, you should be familiar with the most authoritative paternity test organization there. As for the sample, I'll find a way to send it to you, Jing Yunzhao said. Since they were not her biological parents, there was a high chance that they would come looking for her again. At that time, it would be easier to get their hair. No problem. Li Xiaoyun agreed readily. Thank you, Jing Yunzhao said sincerely. If it wasn't for Li Xiaoyun this time, she would probably have to wait a few more days before she could react. At that time, who knew how long she would have to suppress the anger in her heart? If you really want to thank me, come to the capital in 2 years for the college entrance exam, Li Xiaoyun said coldly. Jing Yunzhao was taken aback. Sure, she was originally going to the capital, okay? In the future, her business couldn't be settled in a corner. The capital was the most prosperous capital in China. If she didn't go there to see the world, then she would have lived her life in vain. However, at this moment, Jing Yunzhao realized that she was still too weak. Li Xiaoyun only took one night to find out all these things that gave her a headache. This was the difference in power. At this moment, she desperately wanted to become stronger. Jing Yunzhao's eyes were deep in thought. She didn't notice that Li Xiaoyun's handsome face, which was looking out the window, had deliberately restrained a smile. Chapter 252. Jing Yunzhao and the other two returned. After thanking him again, they prepared to go their separate ways. Li Xiaoyun didn't stay in the county that day and went straight back to the capital. Jing Yunzhao couldn't help but be moved by his act of loyalty. Her attitude took a 180-degree turn, and she specially picked out a lot of fruit wine and medicinal wine for him to bring along. But before leaving, Li Xiaoyan asked her with a face full of concern, "Do you want me to help you find your biological parents?" Du Lin also had a face full of concern. Jing Yunjiao's body instantly tensed up, and she shook her head. Once bitten, twice shy. She didn't know what her family was like. Although she had a lot of expectations, the reality was often used to disappoint her. She was just an abandoned child. Even if she was found, she was afraid that they would not like her. Instead, why should she ask for trouble? What if she met a family that favored boys over girls? How would she deal with it with her personality? Li Xiaoyan obviously thought that she would resist, so he didn't try to persuade her. After parting with the two, Jing Yunjiao went back to the neighborhood. Today, her return home to acknowledge her family was very important to her friends. Therefore, after school, Xiao Haiqing and the others rushed home. When they saw Jing Yunjiao, they immediately rushed over. "Cousin, how was it? Did their family treat you well? Did they bully you? Do your brothers and sisters look like you?" Su Chu quickly asked. Gan Jinshin also had a face full of concern, but he wasn't as straightforward as Su Chu. "You came back so early? Didn't they ask you to stay overnight?" Before Jing Yunjiao could answer, she saw Xiao Haiqing pull Su Chu and Gan Jinshin over and sit directly next to her. She forcibly held her face and looked into her eyes as she asked, "Do they love you? If they don't treat you well, you have to say it. Don't swallow your anger like a resentful wife." They didn't have a good impression of the Jing couple. In short, they were weird. It wasn't that she despised them for being poor and unworthy of Jing Yunjiao. After all, having poor parents was better than having no parents at all. The reason why she was so disgusted was because of her intuition. She couldn't explain it clearly, but she always felt that Jing Yunjiao would be taken away by them. Jing Yunjiao was in a daze for a moment, especially when Xiao Haiqing was holding her face. The distance between them was less than 10 centimeters. Xiao Haiqing saw that she was in a daze and came to her senses. Under her violence, Jing Yunjiao's thin face was filled with baby fat. His expression was simply adorable. Grinning, Xiao Haiqing hurriedly said to Jing Yunjiao, "Don't be so angry. I didn't do it on purpose. I was just happy for a moment." Ha ha ha. Jing Yunjiao had always been repulsed by this kind of super close contact. She naturally knew that. Xiao Haiqing purposely rubbed his face a few more times before letting go. She couldn't help but reminisce about the feeling. Jing Yunjiao helplessly shook his head. "Didn't you want to know about today's situation? I'll tell you after you sit down. But Haiqing, you have to promise in advance that you won't break anything, not smash the table, and not curse loudly. Otherwise, the neighbors will come and cause trouble." "It's that serious?" Xiao Haiqing blinked her pair of innocent eyes and hurriedly nodded. She stretched out her hand. "I swear, I will stay calm." Jing Yunjiao originally wanted to wait for the authoritative test results to come out. But now that he saw how concerned the three of them were, he felt a little apologetic if he kept hiding it. The three of them sat in a row, looking like they were seriously listening to the teacher. Jing Yunjiao sorted out her emotions and words before telling them the truth word by word. Chapter 253. The cozy living room was extremely quiet. The three people opposite Jing Yunjiao stared with their eyes wide open and ears perked up, their faces serious. When I went there, the Jing family's parents were still quite polite at first. In the Jing family, there were 3 children. The eldest one was called Jing Xiu. Her personality was very docile, but she resigned herself to adversity. Her younger sister was called Jing Ling. She was only 12 years old, but she was completely a miniature version of Qiao Hongya. Her personality was fickle, and she liked to scheme. And then? Su Chu nodded her head repeatedly. Jing Ling liked to take small advantages, but she wasn't greedy for success. Jing Ming Kai's personality was overbearing. He didn't like me, so he used his studies to threaten the Jing family's parents. Jing Ming Kai also wanted to rummage through my things, but I didn't allow it. The pair of parents flew into a rage and revealed their true colors. They wanted me to drop out of school and stay at home to take care of the local tyrant. Jing Yunjiao threw a sweet grape into his mouth. Drop out of school? Xiao Haiqing immediately stood up when she heard. Are they crazy? Why should you drop out of school? Su Chu tugged at Xiao Haiqing's clothes to remind her. After all, they were Jing Yunzhao's parents. They could have opinions, but they couldn't disrespect them. Xiao Haiqing also reacted. She angrily sat back down. You shouldn't have agreed, right? Then why would they let you go? She hated patriarchal families the most. Her mother passed away for less than 3 years before her father remarried. In the past, her father treated her quite well, and she always thought that she was still the Xiao family's precious daughter. However, after her father married her stepmother, everything changed. It was said that having a stepmother was equivalent to having a stepfather. This saying wasn't wrong at all, especially when that stepmother gave birth to a son for her father. From then on, she was dispensable in the Xiao family. Thus, when she heard the Jing family treat Jing Yunzhao like this, her heart was filled with jealousy and anger. So what if she was a girl? She never felt that she was worse than a boy, and Jing Yunzhao was even worse. Jing Yunzhao glanced at her and continued, I didn't agree. When I was about to leave, my parents forcefully stopped me. Later, Li Xiaoyun and his friends happened to arrive. When we were about to leave, we were surrounded by a group of villagers. Each of them had a weapon in their hands. If the three of us didn't know some martial arts, we wouldn't have been able to come back today. Jing Yunzhao played it down, but the three of them had already felt the danger at that time. She was able to escape because she knew martial arts. If she didn't, wouldn't she be beaten up together with Li Xiaoyun? How could they bear to do that? Were they really his biological parents? Xiao Haiqing gritted her teeth. Yunzhao, it's all your brother's fault, isn't it? How about I find someone to beat that brat up? You don't need to go home anymore. You don't need that kind of home. She didn't just want to beat him up. She simply wanted to kill that family. Jing Yunzhao had suffered so much in her adoptive parents' house. It was fine if they didn't compensate her, but they actually bullied her because she was young and had no one to rely on. That's right, cousin. That family is too despicable. You don't need to go back anymore. Su Chu immediately said. She and her cousin had been spoiled since they were young. They had never seen such terrifying parents. Moreover, she was the only daughter in the Su family. Her parents didn't even think about having a second child. In their eyes, she and her cousin were the same. Unlike the Jing family, they were actually so biased. Jing Yunzhao looked at the three of them who were concerned about her, and her heart almost melted. Don't worry, I'm not that stupid. Also, young Master Li sent someone to investigate. The test results of the Jing family's parents were not taken from the hospital. It's very likely that it was forged. Chapter 254. She had her suspicions back then, but she didn't think that someone would use her biological parents to plot against her. Now that Jing Yunzhao told them about the DNA test, the three of them became even crazier than before. How could Xiao Haiqing hold herself back? He immediately flew into a rage and looked like he was going to kill Madame He. Don't tell anyone about this for now, Jing Yunzhao reminded her. The DNA test wasn't in her hands yet, and those people dared to plot against her, so they shouldn't blame her for being merciless. Other than these three close friends, Jing Yunzhao didn't know about her biological parents, so the next day, she went to school as usual. The campus was filled with a pure and overflowing atmosphere. Everywhere was filled with a sense of cleanliness. But just as Jing Yunzhao expected, Jing Yunzhao's parents came to school today. If it were up to her, she naturally wouldn't meet them. But when she thought about the samples needed for the DNA test, Jing Yunzhao was very cooperative and appeared in the office. The moment she appeared, Wang Xinfeng knelt down with a bang. Originally, Jing Yunzhao was worried about how to get close to the two people, but now that Wang Xinfeng knelt down, it gave her a chance. Jing Yunzhao immediately went forward and helped her up without saying a word. While she was at it, she grabbed the 2 strands of hair on her body. Are you trying to shorten my lifespan by kneeling down? You say you're my mother, but I've never seen a mother kneel to her daughter so shamelessly in public. Jing Yunzhao's attitude was cold after she received the samples. The moment Jing Yunzhao went forward to support her, Wang Xinfeng thought that this girl's conscience was acting up. Who knew that she was still the same? How could you? Why can't I? You let so many villagers gang up on us yesterday. Do you know the consequences? Jing Yunzhao directly continued her words and continued. Oh right, maybe you don't know, but the person you beat up yesterday has an extraordinary background. He's from the capital. After being scared by you yesterday, he's not in a good mood now. He might even sue you later. When that happens, you'll have to pay for it." Wang Xinfang was shocked. She could tell that the two young people who came yesterday were not ordinary. This was the first time she had seen such an imposing manner. "You don't have to worry about it. Since you claim to be my parents, I begged them for a long time, and they reluctantly agreed not to pursue the matter. I've been worried about you. It's good that you're well aware of this. You don't have to come here and kneel down to thank me. Those who don't know might think that I've done something wrong." Jing Yunzhao blurted out these words without giving the other party a chance to speak. Hearing this, Wang Xinfang and Jing Taijun were stunned. Wang Xinfang's greatest ability was to express her grievances by crying and howling. However, Jing Yunzhao had calmly dealt with the matter as soon as he came up. Before she could even gather her emotions, Jing Yunzhao had already gained the upper hand. When they came, they had a lot of interactions with the teachers, but in order to express their love for their daughter, they didn't say anything bad. They just kept repeating how difficult their family's situation was, how sensible their daughter was, and how she should help her family. So now the teachers didn't have any doubts. "Little Yun, you're so young. Although I'm young, I've always lived by myself. I already know how to support myself. Don't worry, just take care of the other people in the family. I won't let you spend a single cent," Jing Yunzhao interrupted again. Wang Xinfang's facial muscles twitched a few times. Her heart was burning with anger. Chapter 255. This Jing Yunzhao really didn't have any manners. She originally wanted to say how could she have such a close relationship with that kind of man at such a young age, and remind her to pay attention to self-respect and self-respect. Who knew that her mouth would blow her own trumpet? Jing Taijun also discovered that today's Jing Yunzhao was different from before. She didn't even give them a chance to speak. "Let your mom finish speaking," Jing Taijun said unhappily. Jing Yunzhao's face was filled with surprise. "Is there anything else you want to say? I understand. Isn't it just being filial to my parents, taking care of my sister-in-law, and studying hard? Don't worry, my grades are first in the school. Although you said before that, even if you have to sell everything, you have to let me continue to study, I have my own money. I don't need it. All right, I still have to go to class. You don't need to be so concerned about me. Go back first." After Jing Yunzhao finished speaking, she walked to Jing Taijun's side and grabbed the couple's arms to walk out. She was strong. How could Jing Taijun resist? He was a grown man and wasn't as eloquent as Wang Xinfang. At this time, he didn't know what to say. Moreover, Jing Yunzhao had already said all the good things. Wang Xinfang couldn't just yell at Jing Yunzhao and say that Jing Yunzhao wasn't filial. She wasn't blind. She could see that the teachers liked Jing Yunzhao. Not long after, the two of them were already dragged to the school gate. Jing Yunzhao then reached out and pushed the two of them from behind, chasing them out. The couple's hair was taken by her. "Take care. I won't send you off." Jing Yunzhao's mouth revealed a sarcastic smile and threatened, "Next time, don't let me see you at school. Otherwise, I'll go to Jing Mingkai's school and have a chat with him as his sister." She glanced at the two and then turned to leave. The cold figure made the couple want to vomit to death. They didn't say a single word that they had prepared. They held it in their hearts and felt uncomfortable all over. Simply lawless. Wang Xinfang only said these words while pointing at Jing Yunzhao's back. What else could she say? There was no one around, so it was useless even if she screamed at the top of her lungs. The couple returned empty-handed and were in a bad mood. When they returned home, they naturally vented their anger on Jing Xiu. These few days, Jing Xiu had taken leave and did not go to class because of some family matters. She was also anxious, afraid that her grades would be affected, but there was nothing she could do. However, after Jing Yunzhao used Jing Mingkai to threaten them, the couple settled down for a few days. Jing Yunzhao also sent their hair samples to Li Xiaoyun. Jing Yunzhao naturally didn't know that his parents were like ants on a hot pan at this time. They didn't know what to do. After enduring for a few days, he received a call from his big financial backer. An incomparably noble voice sounded from the other end of the phone, which immediately made the two of them look like lackeys. "How's the matter going?" The voice was languid, but somewhat interrogative. Wang Xinfeng held the phone and carefully tried to curry favor. That, Mrs. He, this Jing Yunjiao is disobedient and powerful. She knows martial arts and beat the people in our village until they can't get out of bed. She also threatened to not let me go to school to find her, or else she'll cause trouble for my son. When Mrs. He heard this, she coldly asked, "So you can't do anything now?" Suddenly, the couple panicked. According to Mrs. He's idea, they would pretend to be Jing Yunjiao's parents and treat Jing Yunjiao better so that she would completely trust them. Then, they would do their best for the family. Even if she didn't have a conscience and ignored them, they could still use their identity as her parents to ruin her reputation. Chapter 256. Although it wasn't right, Mrs. He had given them a lot of money and they had already decided to do as she said. However, the problem was that Jing Yunjiao knew martial arts. What if she was angered and Jing Yunjiao bullied their precious son? They did want to earn money, but if something happened to their son, who would spend the money? Mrs. He. She used my son to threaten us. Wang Xinfeng braced herself and said, "Your son?" Mrs. He sneered. "You've already taken my deposit, and you don't want to do it anymore? In the end, Jing Yunjiao is just a little girl. What can she do to your son? But you better not challenge my bottom line. Otherwise, I guarantee that you won't be able to see your son for the rest of your life." Why would she care about someone else's son? She only knew that her precious daughter's chastity was ruined. Not to mention that she was sent abroad. She couldn't marry into the Tang family in the future. Since her daughter was born, the He family had always treated her as the daughter-in-law of the Tang family. Now, more than 10 years of preparation had gone to waste. Not only Jing Yunjiao, but also that Xiao Hongya. She would let them suffer worse treatment than her daughter. Mrs. He's words made Wang Xinfeng and Jing Taijun panic. What do you mean by this? You're not allowed to touch my son. Otherwise, I won't let you off. Wang Xinfeng said angrily, "Do as you see fit. If you want your son to be well, then you better be obedient. If Jing Yunjiao doesn't live well, then you can live well," Mrs. He said and hung up the phone. Wang Xinfeng and Jing Taijun were left looking at each other in panic. They still remembered that when they first saw that woman, they were very nervous but very happy. She only asked them to do some simple things, but she gave them a deposit of $30,000. She even said that if they succeeded, she would give them another 100,000. If they were satisfied, she would even raise the price to 500,000 and guarantee that they wouldn't have to worry about food and clothing. 500,000. They might not have that much money even if they worked hard for a lifetime. What should we do? How can there be such a vicious person in the world? She actually bullied my son. What right does she have? And I thought she was a good person. Wang Xinfeng immediately cried. Jing Taijun clenched his fist. What are you crying for? If little Ming hears this, he'll make a fuss again. Wang Xinfeng raised her head, feeling wronged. Didn't our Linger see a classmate surfing the internet? He said that you can post anything you want on the internet, and many people will see it, Jing Taijun said in a low voice. Wang Xinfeng listened closely and nodded. Meanwhile, on the other side, Xiao Hongya, who was hiding in Jiang Xia's small rented house, was finally found by the police. He immediately sent him back to the Qiao family. When Jiang Xia heard this, he was shocked. He begged the Jiang family's parents with all his might, insisting on getting engaged with Xiao Hongya. Jiang Xia had always been infatuated with Xiao Hongya, yet the two of them were always in the same room during this period of time. In order to get Jiang Xia to buy her some good food and fun things, Xiao Hongya decided to give herself to him. Jiang Xia used to be a young man who indulged in fantasies. After tasting the forbidden fruit for the first time, he couldn't help himself and listened to Xiao Hongya's every word. He even forgot that he was still a high school student. The Jiang family's parents were simply stunned. They simply couldn't believe that Xiao Hongya was hidden by their son. Her son actually wanted to get engaged. How old were they? If they really got engaged, their relatives and friends would laugh at them to death. The two of them naturally didn't agree, but Xiao Weiman brought Xiao Hongya straight to the door. Chapter 257. The Jiang family was well off, and Xiao Weiman had already squandered most of the family fortune. He was a person who liked to take advantage of others, and now that the Jiang family owed him, he naturally wanted to take it back one by one. Xiao Weiman's shameless appearance was much worse than Xiao Hongye's. He refused to leave no matter what and made a ruckus so loud that everyone in the neighborhood knew. He kept saying that Jiang Xia had ruined his daughter's innocence, and even said that he had raped her. Father Jiang and Mother Jiang were both mentally and physically exhausted. They had to fork out another 100,000 yuan to shut Xiao Weiman's mouth. But this wasn't the end, because Xiao Weiman directly stuffed his daughter into the Jiang family under the glorified name of being responsible. He wasn't stupid. The Jiang family's tea house and clothing store were all gold. As long as his daughter was there would be benefits for him in the future. Jing Yunjiao didn't know what happened in the Jiang family. Because it was Saturday, she was in Old Man Su's courtyard. The old man tasted her little wine and nodded in satisfaction. His face was slightly red as he instructed her to pack up the medicinal herbs. "Girl, you know quite a lot. This wine is not bad." Old Man Su grinned, and a rare kind smile appeared on his face. Jing Yunjiao always felt that this old man was very strange. He rarely smiled, and no matter who he was with, his attitude was usually somewhat cold. He liked wine even more than Old Man Gone, and once he drank, he would definitely get drunk. But after he got drunk, he would become somewhat deranged. He locked himself in the room filled with medicinal herbs in the backyard and often knocked them over, as if he had a deep hatred for those herbs. But even so, every time he looked at her, it was a little different. Especially after he got drunk, the way he looked at her was very kind. There was even one time when a few drops of tears fell, scaring her quite a bit. "Old Man Su, although this wine is good, it's better to drink less. Otherwise, you'll have a headache when you wake up in the morning." Jing Yunjiao was very respectful and courteous, as if she was talking to a teacher. The old man responded with a gratified sound, but his face was still expressionless. "This old man knows, you don't have to say too much. Xing Yuan, give her the letter." The next second, the old man shouted again. Uncle Xing Yuan stared blankly for a moment, but he was very obedient. He took out a post. This post was green, and there was a very complex fragrance on it. There was nothing written on it, but there was a golden licorice printed on it. It was unknown what the purpose was. "This is the post for the medicine hall competition. The winner can obtain some benefits. Master wants you to go because it's good for you. The time is on this licorice painting. You can go back and ponder over it for yourself." Uncle Xing Yuan explained. Jing Yunjiao was confused, but seeing that the old man had returned to his muddle-headed state, he could only nod his head seriously. "There's one more thing. There are many people in Ning City who want to seek treatment from Master. Previously, they were all rejected by him, but from now on, those patients will be handed over to you. Master has already given them your phone number. From tomorrow onwards, you should be very busy, so be mentally prepared." Xing Yuan added. Jing Yunjiao looked at Elder Su in surprise. Although Elder Su was a master pharmacist, his medical skills were very good. It was not surprising that there were people who wanted to seek treatment from him. But now, he was introducing her to those patients. This kindness was not small. She was still young, and even if she begged to treat other people's illnesses, they might not be willing. But with Elder Su's help, she would definitely grow rapidly. "Thank you, Elder Su," Jing Yunjiao sincerely said. Sometimes, when she saw the old man like this, she felt quite sad. But she couldn't ask too much about the other's private matters. She just thought that it would be better to be more respectful and polite in the future. Chapter 258. Jing Yunjiao had just left Su Lao's place when Li Xiaoyun, who had been waiting for a few days, finally informed her of the results. Without a doubt, they were not her biological children. In the night, Jing Yunjiao had a slight smile on her face. She put the letter back into the space. Because she was in a good mood, she shopped for a while and bought some things on the way back. Passing by a tea house, Jing Yunjiao saw that there seemed to be some chaos inside. Jing Yunjiao thought for a while and walked in. As soon as she entered, she found 3 people lying on the ground. Their faces and lips were black, they were convulsing and vomiting, and their nails were cyanotic. This was no different from being poisoned. Jing Yunjiao immediately rushed up, and her face changed. How could people in this tea house be poisoned by hook kiss? This hook kiss was also called heartbreak grass. Even if one smelled it a few times, they would feel dizzy. It was extremely poisonous, but after all, it was a poisonous grass and not everywhere. This poison was serious enough to cause death. Jing Yunjiao didn't dare to think too much. She quickly took out some fresh plowgrass from the space under the cover of her school bag. She looked around the tea house, found a utensil, and smashed it. After adding water and filtering the juice, she hurriedly broke it. Move aside. Jing Yunjiao was strong and directly broke free from the back of those people. Without saying anything, she poured the juice of the plow grass into them. Although it was a serious poison, the antidote was not difficult. In addition to the plowgrass, duck, goose, and sheep's blood could also be used to alleviate the poison. She could also boil it with mung beans and licorice. However, in this situation, the latter two methods were not very convenient. She could only take out the herbs from the space. After dealing with the 3 poisoned people, Jing Yunjiao breathed a sigh of relief. But the next second, she was pulled over by someone. Jing Yunjiao, why are you here? What did you give them to drink? The other party scolded her. She looked up and couldn't help but sigh. Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. There weren't many tea houses in Huaning County, and she had to save people from the Jiang family. Can't you see what I'm doing? Jing Yunjiao found it funny. The 3 poisoned people were obviously much better, but this Father Jiang still came to question her. Father Jiang was in a bad mood today. During the day, Xiao Weiman, that dog, had just extorted 100,000 yuan. Xiao Hongya, that shameless brat, was still hanging around their house, refusing to leave. His son had also learned bad things from her. These days were already enough to make him dizzy. Who knew that something would happen at the tea house? He had been running the tea house for more than 10 years, and such a situation had never happened before. That was tea. How could it kill someone? Did you do it? It's not like I don't know how vicious you are. How dare you come to my shop to cause trouble in the middle of the night? You actually dared to poison them at such a young age. If anything happens to the 3 of them, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Father Jiang was fuming. Jing Yunjiao sneered. You said I poisoned you? Do you think there's something wrong with the eyes of these customers? After saying that, he directly walked over to where the 3 guests were sitting and picked up the herbal tea on the table. With a mocking smile, he said, Uncle Jiang, this herbal tea of yours is made from the white dog intestine, right? What a pity. You can't even differentiate between white dog intestine and heartbreak grass, causing the customers to mistakenly eat it. Now you're blaming me? Do you have the right? Nonsense. What heartbreak grass? I don't know. Father Jiang felt guilty and was furious. He instantly rushed over and snatched the remaining herbal tea from Jing Yunjiao's hands without saying a word. He directly threw it on the floor, causing water to splash everywhere. Chapter 259. Although it was night time, there were quite a lot of people in the tea house. Father Jiang's actions gave everyone a fright. After all, it was a tea house. It was usually quiet and serene. As the owner, Jiang Wensheng had a calm and refined appearance whenever he appeared in front of guests. He had never been so angry before. Even when the 3 of them were twitching on the ground, Jiang Wensheng still had a trace of rationality left and immediately called for an ambulance. But now, he was flying into a rage because of a girl? Moreover, this girl was indeed a little strange. His appearance was outstanding, and his temperament was cold and threatening. He wore the simplest sportswear and carried a bag on his back. As soon as he appeared, he gave the 3 of them some strange water. However, what was shocking was that the 3 twitching people were obviously much better. Now, even their complexions had almost recovered. Listening to what she said, she actually said something about heartbreak grass? It was even more confusing. Jiang Wensheng was extremely nervous. Jing Yunjiao actually said it was heartbreak grass poison. Then, he might have made a mistake. White dog intestine and heartbreak grass were very similar in some aspects. This herbal tea was found a few days ago in another place. The villagers there usually used white dog intestine to make tea, saying that it could prevent the stomach from burning up. After drinking it, he felt that the taste was not bad, so he used it. But most of the people who came here drank some famous tea. There were not many people who ordered this herbal tea. Today, there was only one herbal tea business. Who knew that such a big thing would happen? When he asked for the recipe of white dog intestine to make tea, the villagers had mentioned heartbreak grass. But at that time, he didn't take it to heart. After all, they were two different plants. He wouldn't be so stupid that he couldn't distinguish between them. But today, his emotions were really unstable. Could it be that he made a mistake because of a moment of confusion? Jiang Wensheng thought about it and immediately shook his head. It wasn't his fault. It must be Jing Yunzhao's doing behind the scenes. Otherwise, why would she appear here at 7 or 8 in the evening? Seeing Jiang Wensheng's expression that looked like he wanted to eat her, Jing Yunzhao said mercilessly, "The thief is crying thief. Your tea house also has surveillance cameras. You can take a look at it. I only came in for 10 minutes. When I arrived, people were already like this. You can even poison them? Besides, this herbal tea was prepared by you. I believe that there should be some leftovers in the kitchen, right? We'll know who's at fault when the police arrive. You want to pin the blame on me now? Are you an idiot?" He wasn't just an idiot. He was a mad dog. Jiang Wensheng lost all his face after being scolded by Jing Yunzhao. But at the same time, when he thought of the leftover white dog intestines in the kitchen, he was shocked. It was as if his feet were filled with lead, and he was completely dumbfounded. He would be able to find out after checking, but he couldn't transfer the rest of the things in front of everyone. But what if the police came? His shop was definitely finished. Jiang Wensheng's heart was burning with anxiety. His entire person was a little dazed. Jing Yunzhao had saved these 3 people after all, so he didn't leave. "Little girl, this intestine-severing grass, what exactly is it?" The surrounding people who saw the poisoning reaction couldn't help but ask in shock. Jing Yunzhao didn't hide anything. She opened her mouth and said, "Intestine-severing grass is commonly known as big tea medicine. Its entire body is poisonous. The most poisonous parts are the roots and leaves, especially the buds and leaves. Only a few pieces are needed to kill. When this poison acts up, it will cause weakness in the limbs, unclear speech, vomiting, diarrhea, and even directly cause the heart to stop contracting. The most frightening thing is that during the whole process, the poisoned person is conscious." Chapter 260. The heartbreak grass looked like honeysuckle, so the chances of eating it by mistake were quite high. Of course, this poisonous grass wasn't completely useless. In terms of pharmacology, it could disperse blood stasis and relieve pain. It could also kill insects and relieve itching, as well as treat some skin diseases. Jing Yunzhao mentioned its toxicity, so naturally, she wouldn't hide its medicinal properties. She even mentioned the treatment method. Everyone present was shocked and couldn't regain their senses. Although these words came from the mouth of a little girl, they actually felt that it was very believable. Thinking back, they all felt that their reactions were a little funny. Why did they feel that this little girl's aura was like that of an old doctor who had practiced medicine for many years? It made them involuntarily feel a sense of trust. It was too strange. Even Jing Yunzhao didn't realize that her aura was different. The more she absorbed the spirit jade, the more it was contaminated with the medicinal scent. At the same time, the most mysterious thing about it was that it carried the old ancestors' medical ethics. Thus, it more or less influenced Jing Yunzhao. When she talked about things related to medicine, it was as if her body was glowing, naturally making others believe her. Of course, that deterrent force had only just formed a little bit at present. Not long after Jing Yunzhao finished speaking, the ambulance and police rushed over. With such a big incident, it was impossible for the tea house to continue operating. At the same time that Jiang Wensheng was taken away, the Jiang family, Mother Jiang, and even Xiao Hongye rushed over. When they saw Jing Yunzhao, they all looked at her with hatred. Jing Yunzhao didn't know about Xiao Hongye's situation, but seeing her attitude now, she realized that she was especially compatible with this family. They were jackals of the same tribe. "Sister, it's been a long time. I heard that you found your biological parents. That's really worth celebrating," Xiao Hongye said in a strange tone. Some time ago, someone found Xiao Weimin and gave him 10,000 yuan to inquire about Jing Yunzhao's childhood. For example, the jade gourd token on her, and the time when she was brought home. And these 2 days, she heard from Jiang Xia that a strange couple found Jing Yunzhao. Everyone said that they were her biological parents. It wasn't hard for her to figure out why that person had asked Xiao Weimin about Jing Yunjiao's identity. At first, she was a little angry. How could an abandoned wild child find his parents? But now, her mood was much better. The situation at home of Jing Yunjiao's parents was hilarious. It was even messier than theirs. Sure enough, Jing Yunjiao was not a person who deserved to be related by blood. So what if she left the Qiao family? Even if she returned to the Jing family, she would still have to suffer. At this moment, Xiao Hongye had a mocking smile on her face, as if she had seen Jing Yunjiao's miserable encounter. She simply wanted to laugh out loud. He's here. Jing Yunjiao raised his eyebrows and smiled, then said in surprise, "Don't tell me you're already preparing to get pregnant and have a child?" Xiao Hongye could feel the mockery in Jing Yunjiao's eyes, and her body trembled. This was the thing that made her feel the most inferior. She relied on the Jiang family, so it was impossible for her to get pregnant and have a child now. But she had to be engaged to Jiang Xia in order to use everything the Jiang family had. But she was also unwilling to be imprisoned in the Jiang family forever and be a little woman. She was still so young. When she was in school, everyone said that with her grades, she could enter a key university. Her temper and appearance were so good that even those rich kids would take a fancy to her. In the end, she would definitely marry into a rich family. She hadn't seen what a rich family was like, but it definitely wasn't like the Jiang family. Chapter 261. Xiao Hongye glared at Jing Yunjiao with hatred in her eyes. She was always able to find her weakest point, and this was what she hated about her. What do you have to be so proud of? Sister, you're even worse off than me now. Your family is so poor, shouldn't you, as a daughter, donate all your money to your parents? Oh right, didn't you always say that my parents didn't treat you well, and that you didn't have enough to eat and warm clothes? Now it seems that if you were living in your biological parents' house, you would have starved to death long ago. Xiao Hongye hugged Jiang Xia's arm and said arrogantly, "Starving to death is better than being killed by you, don't you think so?" Jing Yunjiao said. However, looking at how she was showing off, Jing Yunjiao didn't give her any face and continued, "Jiang Xia definitely loves you, otherwise he wouldn't have slept with a girl who slept with someone else. I just don't know if Chao Xing would break out of prison and kill you in a fit of anger if he finds out that you're with someone else." Jing Yunjiao was just saying this casually. It was impossible for Chao Xing to break out of prison, and it was even more impossible for him to kill someone for Xiao Hongye. However, it wasn't as if she wouldn't say something to provoke this pair of puppy love. Jing Yunjiao's tone was indifferent, but when she said this, Xiao Hongye's eyes widened, and she wanted to strangle her. Chao Xing, Chao Xing. She actually dared to mention Chao Xing. If it wasn't for Jing Yunjiao handing those photos to the police, she wouldn't have dropped out of school. It was true that Jiang Xia liked her, but he was still a boy after all. Every time he was with her, he couldn't help but mention Chao Xing. She could only try her best to coax him, afraid that he wouldn't want her anymore. Now, Jing Yunjiao actually brought up this matter again, and in front of Jiang Xia's mother. Jiang Xia's mother was stunned for a moment, but in the next second, she asked angrily, "What do you mean? Her son slept with someone else?" Was she referring to Xiao Hongye? She was already not at such a young age. Instantly, Jiang Xia's mother was so angry that her face turned red. She raised her hand and slapped Xiao Hongye. "Bitch, you dare to lie to us. You're just a broken shoe, yet you want my son to treasure you." She hated Xiao Hongye to begin with, and now that so many things had happened, she couldn't tolerate her even more. Jiang Xia also felt as if his heart had been stabbed by a knife. "Mom, stop fooling around. I already knew about this." How could he not know? Back then, the matter between Chao Xing, Xiao Hongye, and he Jiasi had caused a huge uproar in the entire school. However, Xiao Hongye was the victim, and she was also unwilling at that time. It was Chao Xing who had forced himself on her. "How did I give birth to a son like you? You're only in high school, yet you fought with us over this broken shoe. Now that your family is in trouble, you're still siding with her. Do you want me to die from anger? I don't care. Xiao Hongye definitely can't stay in our house, or else I won't acknowledge you as my son." Mother Jiang shouted. When Xiao Hongye heard this, she glared hatefully at Jing Yunjiao. "It's all your fault. Jing Yunjiao, I've called you sister for so many years. I'm homeless now, but you're still harming me like this. Jing Yunjiao glanced at her, her eyes cold to the extreme. Xiao Hongye used to put on an act, always putting on an expression as if she was being bullied. Now that she had stayed at home for a few days, her weak and pitiful side had been worn away. With just a few words, her foxtail was exposed. She had already treated Xiao Hongye as an enemy, but now, looking at her, she only felt that she was laughable and pitiful. This kind of Xiao Hongye was really regressing as she grew older. She wasn't as smart as she used to be. Chapter 262. Jing Yunjiao was too lazy to bother with Xiao Hongye. Xiao Hongye felt that her attitude was condescending, making her feel uncomfortable. Not long after, news came from the hospital that the 3 victims were no longer in danger. Of course, this also showed that her emergency treatment was indispensable. There were even more family members of the victims in the tea house, surrounding Mother Jiang and the others so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. The police also found the remaining heartbreak grass in the tea house. The Jiang family couldn't shirk the responsibility for this accident. At this time, the serene tea house was in a mess. Mother Jiang had always paid attention to her status and looked like a rich lady. Now that she was facing so many people, how could she maintain her previous attitude? She was extremely flustered. Jiang Xia had always been self-righteous. Looking at these troublemakers, his mood became more and more irritated. Your tea house's tea almost killed my husband. Our family of 5 almost lost our support. You shameless profiteers, if you don't give me an explanation, I won't let you off. Number 1 tea house. I think it's filled with poisonous tea. This kind of lousy place shouldn't be opened. Let's smash it. Yes, smash it. As the crowd argued, they started to fight. The tea set on the table fell to the ground in an instant, making bang-bang sounds non-stop. Jing Yunjiao stood on the other side, far away. Now that this matter had nothing to do with her, she could totally leave. It was just that there were a few people surrounding her, thanking her profusely. Moreover, the entrance was also blocked by a group of people. Little sister, thank you so much. The doctor said that if you didn't save them in time, the 3 of them would have really lost their lives. Little classmate, you are our family's savior. Which school are you from? Later, we will personally go to your house and school to thank you. We must let everyone know that your actions are worthy of praise. Jing Yunjiao's expression was calm, while Xiao Hongye's face was filled with jealousy and resentment. What did Jing Yunjiao do to make these debt collectors so grateful? They were all negotiating with these people, but Jing Yunjiao, on the other hand, was actually so blind as to accept other people's gratitude. Since she was so powerful, shouldn't she come over and tell everyone to scram? At this moment, Xiao Hongye was being pointed at and scolded. She felt extremely wronged. She wasn't even a member of the Jiang family. Our family is also very surprised that something happened to them, but it's not right for you to make trouble like this. Besides, my father's tea house has been open for more than 10 years, and there hasn't been any problems. Who knows, it might be the 3 of them who are trying to frame us for benefits. Jiang Xia, who had been forced into a corner, said. Hearing this, Xiao Hongye was so angry that she rolled her eyes. Idiot! Although there were some people here to join in the fun, there weren't many of them. The rest were the relatives and friends of the 3 families. Yet, Jiang Xia said that they had harmed themselves and framed them. Wouldn't these family members be even angrier? As expected, Jiang Xia's words were like a stone that caused 3 ripples. One of the men on the other side was so angry that his face turned red. He pointed at Jiang Xia and said, Look at what he's saying. Saying that we framed them? Little brother, you almost lost your life just now. Using their lives to frame you? Are you worthy? Besides, the police came just now. Are the things that they took from your kitchen fake? Jiang Xia's face was red from holding back his anger. However, when he saw that his own tea house had turned into a mess, he was even angrier. Anyway, our tea leaves have never had any problems. Why are you insisting that it's our fault? Didn't the things that were taken away still not be tested? Maybe there's no problem at all. Chapter 263. Xiao Hongye did not agree with Jiang Xia's words. She knew clearly that this matter was related to the tea house. The best way to deal with it was to admit their mistake. Moreover, now was the best time to admit their mistake. Jiang Wensheng had been taken away, leaving only this widow and her child in the tea house. Whether they cried or knelt, they could do whatever they wanted. There were many men among these people who would more or less sympathize with them. When the time came, they might be able to turn this into a small matter and not have to pay much money. Now, Jiang Xia, this idiot who only knew how to drag them down, actually said such low-level words. He was simply looking for trouble. Little brother, you said there's no problem, right? That's good. If the police find out later that it's related to the things that were taken away, then you can go to the streets and kneel down to apologize. Can you do that? Why should I apologize? Those 3 people didn't die. Jiang Xia was also angry. They were only poisoned, not dead. If it was really their fault, then couldn't they just pay the medical fees? Also, their tea fees were waived. They could just not come in the future. What right did they have to make him kneel down to apologize? Fortunately, these people did not know what Jiang Xia was thinking. Otherwise, they would have been angered to death. Hearing Jiang Xia say such shocking words, Xiao Hongye finally couldn't take it anymore. Her eyes reddened as she looked at the crowd with tear-stained eyes. Uncles and aunties, this matter is our fault. We will definitely take responsibility for it. Jiang Xia is only acting like this because he's too worried about his father. Please don't make things difficult for them. When Jing Yunjiao heard this, the corner of his eyes twitched. What identity did Xiao Hongye have now? Unless those people were idiots, they would not give her face. The benefit she could get should be the attitude of the Jiang family's parents, right? After all, if she spoke up for them so respectfully, Mother Jiang would not continue to use Chao Xing's matter to force her. She was such a scheming girl. However, Jing Yunjiao's eyes revealed a hint of ridicule. Xiao Hongye was afraid of returning to the Chao family and wanted to curry favor with Mother Jiang. This was true, but she seemed to have forgotten another key person, and that was Jiang Xia. Or was she still too confident that even if she made Jiang Xia unhappy, she would still be able to capture his heart when she returned? Little girl, who are you to this family? Can you decide for them? The Jiang family's son has already been beaten to death and won't admit it. What use do you think it is for you to say all this now? Someone immediately said to Xiao Hongye. Xiao Hongye had an apologetic look on her face. I am Jiang Xia's girlfriend. I know him very well. He only said those things because he was anxious and scared. Uncle and auntie are very good people and would never think of harming others. This was really an accident. However, since it happened, we will definitely compensate your family later on. Mother Jiang, who was so angry that she didn't know what to do, hurriedly nodded. She felt that something was wrong when her son spoke just now, but now she didn't dare to step forward to stop them, for fear of causing these people to act excessively. Jiang Xia, on the other hand, had an ugly expression. He felt that he had lost a lot of face. He didn't think that this matter was that serious, but Xiao Hongye actually said that he was anxious and scared in front of so many people. He had clearly been so imposing just now, so heroic in protecting his mother and her, but she actually said that about him? We won't believe the words of a little girl like you. Unless she wrote a letter of guarantee and 3 IOUs for 200,000. Otherwise, this matter won't end here. Those troublemakers pointed at Mother Jiang and said. The main door was blocked, and no one could leave. Xiao Hongye turned to look at Jing Yunjiao, who was quietly watching the show, and said, You don't believe me, but you should believe her, right? She's my older sister, and she even saved those 3 people just now. Chapter 264. Following the direction that Xiao Hongye was pointing at, everyone's gazes landed on Jing Yunjiao. Jing Yunjiao pursed her lips. She knew that Xiao Hongye would use this trick again. She didn't want to leave her alone. Such a big matter couldn't be settled just by saving people. If these people thought that she was in cahoots with the Jiang family, then saving people meant that she was working for the Jiang family. That was a matter of course. But on what basis? Xiao Hongye, you say you're my sister? That cheap temperament of yours hasn't changed at all. You want to claim kinship with everyone you see. For your own sake, You ran away from home and refused to let go of the Jiang family. Now you want to drag me down with you? Jing Yunzhao stared at Xiao Hongye with a cold smile and walked towards her. These people were still relatively polite to Jing Yunzhao and opened up a path for him. The next moment, Jing Yunzhao directly grabbed Xiao Hongye's collar and pinched her face with one hand. He continued, "Look at your nose and eyes. Which part of it resembles mine? Wasn't it enough that you had people intercept me and break into my house to steal? Now you're doing it again? Do I have to give you 2 tight slaps on your face before you stop?" Jing Yunzhao said to slap, but he didn't do it. However, the strength he used to pinch her face didn't lessen. Her face that could barely be considered fair quickly turned red. Seeing that Xiao Hongye was about to cry again, Jing Yunzhao suddenly smiled and said to her, "Why don't you try and shed a single tear? I promise that I'll make you cry enough tonight. Do you believe me?" Xiao Hongye inexplicably shuddered. Looking at Jing Yunzhao's smile, her scalp went numb. "What are you doing?" Her voice trembled as she asked. "Bullying you," Jing Yunzhao said matter-of-factly. "You like to cry so much and tell others how wronged you are in front of me, as if I'm bullying you. If I don't do as you wish, wouldn't it be a waste of your good intentions?" After saying that, Jing Yunzhao pulled her hair and directly pulled her out of the crowd. This seemingly ordinary action actually made Xiao Hongye feel extremely uncomfortable. She could only lower her head and let her hair pull her forward. She couldn't even see the path in front of her clearly. Jing Yunzhao purposely swung her a few times, making her stumble and kneel on the tea table at the side. She waited for her to let go with great difficulty, but in the next second, Jing Yunzhao picked up a teapot filled with tea leaves and poured it over her. In an instant, water droplets dripped down from her hair, and the tea leaves were all over her clothes. She looked extremely pathetic. "Jing Yunzhao, you're crazy!" Xiao Hongye immediately roared. "So you know my surname is Jing? Then how can you say that she's my younger sister?" Jing Yunzhao laughed lightly and turned her head towards the crowd. "Did everyone see that? A person with paranoia who wants to be my sister all day long. Yet she turns around and calls me a lunatic. This world is really crazy." She brushed her clothes and threw the teapot at Xiao Hongye without any mercy. Everyone was shocked. Xiao Hongye was wearing an exquisite white dress. At this time, her hair was dyed yellow and looked extremely ugly. Her hair was disheveled, and she looked like a female ghost. She glared with a look of hatred. That look made people shiver. Was this the little girl who looked so obedient and begging in front of them just now? It couldn't be, right? But the truth was, there was no mistake. Now that she said that this pair of girls were sisters, it was really impossible to believe. Moreover, they really didn't look the least bit alike. Moreover, how could sisters quarrel like this? But if they weren't sisters, then this little girl in the white dress was too hateful. She actually wanted to establish a relationship with Jing Yunzhao to plead for the Jiang family. How could the promises of this kind of person who was full of lies be trusted? Chapter 265. Xiao Hongye knelt on the tea table. That bit of self-esteem of hers was completely shattered. Being swept by other people's disgusted gazes, that feeling was like countless heavy hammers hammering her heart, causing her to tremble in fear. She was afraid that she would always be like this, always being looked down upon by others. "Jiang family, are you going to write an IOU or not?" Xiao Hongye's thoughts were interrupted by an angry roar, causing her to shiver. Shrinking her head, she climbed down from the table, carefully not daring to make a sound. Jing Yunzhao had really changed. Previously, even though she had been schemed against by Jing Yunzhao many times in school, she still felt that Jing Yunzhao was still the unloved brat in their family. As long as she moved her mouth, Jing Yunzhao would be ashamed and unable to refute. But the truth was, she didn't know when it started, but her words no longer had any effect. No one believed her anymore. Everyone even started to think that Jing Yunzhao was the one in the right. Xiao Hongye bit her lips lightly and lowered her head, restraining the unwillingness in her eyes. Jiang Xia was blocked on the other side and couldn't care about her. Moreover, seeing that the people in the room were becoming more and more violent, even looking like they were going to beat someone up, Jiang Xia admitted defeat in his heart. "Mom, you should write an IOU." Finally, Jiang Xia said to his mother, who was so scared that her whole body turned cold. Mother Jiang shook her head fiercely. 200,000 for a family, that would be 600,000. Moreover, everything in the room had been smashed clean. Their tea house's business would definitely be affected. Also, there was her husband. She would have to spend some money to get him out, right? Then the loss wouldn't be just 600,000. She was also a businesswoman. She clearly knew that if she wrote an IOU now, it would definitely be a big blow to their family. Even though those 3 people were hospitalized, they were fine now. Even if they had to pay compensation, they didn't need to spend so much. 20,000 for a family wasn't enough? No, you can't write it. Mother Jiang struggled. You're not writing it? The other party snorted and directly dragged Jiang Xia over. Don't think that we'll be fine just because we don't hit women. This is your son, right? Don't blame us for taking action. The other party didn't want to hit anyone at first. They just wanted to throw things to scare the mother and daughter. Who knew that the son of the Jiang family was such a good-for-nothing? He was so vicious at such a young age. Based on what he had said before, this matter couldn't be settled so easily. After saying that, he kicked Jiang Xia in the stomach. However, Jiang Xia was still underage, so this group of people was cautious. They didn't use too much strength, but they still managed to kick Jiang Xia to the ground, causing him to cry out a few times. When Mother Jiang saw this, her heart ached. After beating him for a while, he finally couldn't bear his son's suffering and hurriedly agreed. The mother and son of the Jiang family wrote down the 3 IOUs with tears streaming down their faces. Then, they apologized profusely to this group of people. Only then did the farce end. The doors to the tea house opened, and only then was Jing Yunzhao able to leave. His cold and arrogant back view made Xiao Hongya even more jealous. After Jing Yunzhao left the tea house, some thoughts surfaced in her mind. The color of the tea in the Jiang family's tea house was definitely not as good as the ones in her space. Even though the profits of the tea house couldn't be compared to the company, there was still an advantage. Most people who liked tea were aloof. In order to show off their temperament, most people in the business and political world would come into contact with these kinds of things. If this tea house was big enough and good enough, it would also be beneficial to her. With this thought in mind, Jing Yunzhao simply wandered around the vicinity and found a good location. Chapter 266. The street where the Jiang family's tea house was located had a simple atmosphere. It was surrounded by shops that sold porcelain or antiques. The location that Jing Yunzhao chose was at the end of the street. On the other side was a river, and on the other side of the river was a park. Although the scenery and air were good, the flow of people there was not as good as the Jiang family's tea house. However, in Jing Yunzhao's opinion, this was not a big problem. After all, although this shop was relatively remote compared to other locations, it did not affect its status as a tea house. The shops near the river were relatively quiet. Most of them had the word "for sale" written on them. Jing Yunzhao memorized the phone number pasted on the shop's door before leaving. After returning home, Jing Yunzhao gave Pak Yuan a call. On one hand, she asked him to recruit a few waiters to cook and sell tea. On the other hand, she hoped to negotiate with the owner of the shop to discuss the price. Yuling wine was currently on the rise. Although it currently had a stable income, it had invested a lot in the early stages. The capital could not be recovered so early. Therefore, the money that could be spent on this shop was not much. Jing Yunzhao also decided that if the price was too outrageous, she would temporarily rent it. The next morning, Jing Yunzhao received 5 consecutive calls. Naturally, she did not forget that old Master Su had transferred all his patients to her. Now, they were all at her door. These 5 patients were all from Huaning County. They must have been arranged by old Master Su. Jing Yunzhao arranged the time through the phone and left their addresses. Then, she proceeded with them one by one. Those who were able to find old Master Su definitely did not have a common cold or fever. After changing into a clean white shirt, Jing Yunzhao took the medical box that old Master Gon had given her and went out in a dignified manner. Many people in the neighborhood had seen Jing Yunzhao before. Now that they saw her carrying a medical box so early in the morning, their gazes were filled with curiosity. However, her temperament was not considered friendly. Therefore, No one asked much along the way. She took a taxi and headed straight to her destination. The place where the first family lived was a little remote. It was a residential compound, and the surrounding scenery was excellent. When Jing Yunjiao knocked on the door, she instantly heard an anxious voice coming from inside the house. "Dr. Jing?" The moment the door opened a little, the other party called out nervously. However, when he saw Jing Yunjiao's face, he was stunned. In the next second, he looked at Jing Yunjiao's surroundings. "You don't have to look. I'm the one who called you this morning," Jing Yunjiao said politely. In the morning, the other party was very enthusiastic and excited. She did exchange a few words with this person, but presumably, this family thought that the person who came was a famous old doctor. You're the miracle doctor that Elder Su introduced?" The woman's face was filled with surprise and doubt. Jing Yunjiao was surprised. "Godly doctor?" This was not something that Old Man Su would say. Every time Old Man Su watched her concoct medicinal herbs, he would usually say that she was stupid and that her skills were not good enough. He rarely praised her. "Can I go in?" Jing Yunjiao didn't deny it and asked. These people doubted her medical skills entirely because of her age. If she were to be modest at this moment, not only would it not increase their trust, it would also make them doubt her ability even more. Arrogance, in fact, was also a kind of capital. The woman who opened the door hesitated for a moment, but still nodded. Please. After speaking, Jing Yunjiao walked in. There were some flowers and plants in the courtyard, but there weren't many household items. It didn't look like a place where people lived for a long time. Entering the central room, there was an old lady and a 13 or 14-year-old boy on the bed. When Jing Yunjiao saw the old lady, she couldn't help but think of Xiang Jin's mother-in-law. Her heart trembled. Chapter 267. Mom, this is the godly doctor that Elder Su introduced. What do you think? The woman looked at the old lady with some difficulty. This old lady was in her 70s or 80s. She was extremely thin, and her skin was covered with age spots. She looked like a bag of bones, and one could almost see her bones with the naked eye. The old lady hurriedly got up and pounced over. "Godly doctor? You're the godly doctor? You must save my grandson." The corner of Jing Yunjiao's mouth twitched. She had been suspected too many times. Now that someone had suddenly appeared and called her a godly doctor, she really felt a little uncomfortable. The woman sighed. "Mom, our lure might be. The godly doctor is so young, and Elder Su isn't willing to come." "Shut up." A second ago, old Madame Su had a pleading look on her face, but in the next second, she shouted coldly, "Old Mr. Su is a man of virtue and prestige, and he never talks nonsense. Since this young doctor was introduced by old Mr., he must be a real doctor. Besides, we've brought Lu to see many doctors in the past, but all of them had unfathomable faces. Weren't they all useless?" The woman choked. "That's true." After speaking, she bowed lightly to Jing Yunjiao. "Little godly doctor, I shouldn't have doubted you. I hope you won't be angry. Take a look at my son." The patient's family being so kind simply exceeded Jing Yunjiao's expectations. However, thinking about it carefully, there were still many ordinary people in this world. People like Qin Jishui and his son weren't many. Jing Yunjiao nodded and walked to the bedside to take a look. He was shocked. Not only was this little boy unconscious, but his body was also cold and his breathing was also very weak. He was already no different from a dead person. However, since Elder Su had handed this person over to him, then there was naturally some reason. In other words, this person could still be saved. Jing Yunjiao checked his pulse again and discovered that his pulse was heavy and weak. Due to the deficiency of yin and yang, the dysfunction of his internal organs, the lack of nourishment in his heart, and the lack of circulation in his heart, it resulted in stagnation of qi, obstruction of phlegm, and blood stasis. Drinking water blocked the yang energy in the heart, resulting in heart failure. Does he have a history of epilepsy? Other than heart failure, Jing Yunjiao noticed something else and asked. The old lady's eyes lit up. That's right. When my grandson was born, he had a brain injury. Since he was 1 year old, he would have a relapse every year. When it was serious, he would have dozens of relapses a day. We have visited all the hospitals in the capital, big and small, but we still couldn't find a cure. A few days ago, they said that there was a new medicine, so my son bought some for the child to eat. Who knew that after eating it, the child couldn't take it anymore? The old lady spoke very carefully, for fear that she would miss out a little bit and affect her grandson's condition. After that, he showed the medicine box to Jing Yunjiao. However, Jing Yunjiao couldn't understand it because it was filled with Western medical terms. The hospital also said that this medicine is very toxic and not safe. However, the family bought a lot of medicine for this child's illness, so they didn't take it to heart. The madam on the side added. Jing Yunjiao nodded. Although this medicine could treat epilepsy, the little boy's body couldn't take it after the epilepsy was cured. Therefore, he had heart failure and his life was hanging by a thread. Jing Yunjiao lowered his eyes and thought for a while. There was a prescription that could be used, but it was also toxic. He had to use the monk's hood to save the heart soup, but the amount of monk's hood couldn't be used conventionally. However, if the amount of monk's hood was too large, it could easily cause poisoning, so he had to be careful. Chapter 268. Jing Yunjiao was sure that if he didn't use the prescription in his hands, even the gods wouldn't be able to save the boy. So he didn't think too much about it and said, "Lend me your kitchen. Also, when I'm brewing the medicine, I hope you can avoid it." There were some common herbs in the medicine box, but not much, so he needed to take them from his space. The old woman and the young woman quickly nodded and cooperated. Jing Yunjiao was happy and relaxed. According to the prescribed amount, he boiled the monk's hood, dried ginger, roasted licorice, Korean ginseng, Chinese dogwood, raw dragon powder, live magnet powder, and musk in the medicine pot. Normally, the amount of monk's hood used was about 10 grams, but Jing Yunjiao's dose was more than 100 grams. However, the roasted licorice in the pharmacy had the effect of curing the monk's hood poison, so it could be considered a balance. Outside, the old woman and the young woman were waiting anxiously. Jing Yunjiao personally finished brewing the medicine and then gave it to the patient. After a few hours, the boy who drank the medicine faintly woke up. Jing Yunjiao also breathed a sigh of relief. "Godly doctor. Thank you, Dr. Jing. Elder Su was right." The old woman almost knelt down. Jing Yunjiao leaned to the side and supported her to prevent her from losing her life. Jing Yunjiao still had 4 patients to treat today. Now that one of them woke up, it could be considered a good start, especially since the boy's condition was more serious. But now that he drank the dose of fight poison with poison, there shouldn't be any problems. "I'll keep the prescription. You just need to recuperate on time. I still have a patient to treat, so I'll leave first." Jing Yunjiao lifted his feet and was about to leave. "Wait!" the old woman suddenly shouted. Jing Yunjiao thought there was a problem, but when he turned his head, he saw an oil paper bag in front of him. "Dr. Jing, did you forget about the consultation fee?" "Consultation fee?" Jing Yunjiao was slightly embarrassed. Previously, she mostly followed Grandpa Gon to see patients, and Dr. Gon had already received the consultation fee, so she completely forgot about it. But looking at the money in front of her, it seemed a little too much. As far as she knew, because Grandpa Gon was very famous, his consultation fee was quite high. It was a few hundred yuan. If he wrote a prescription, the price would be different. The medical fees would also be paid separately. However, regardless of whether the illness was cured or not, the consultation fee would not be reduced. And the stack in front of her should be about 200,000 yuan. "Last night, we asked Elder Su. He said that you're half his disciple, so the consultation fee is different. That's why this is only." The old woman was a little hesitant. She thought Jing Yunjiao because she thought it's too little. When Jing Yunjiao heard this, she didn't hesitate anymore and took the money. Only then did she remember that old man Su's identity was rather mysterious. Those who could find him not only had an unusual illness, but their identities were also not bad. 200,000 yuan might be a few years of income for others, but for some people, it was not worth mentioning at all. Although this family lived in a private house, she had stayed in this house for a few hours and could see that the expenses in this house were not simple. They must have specially rented a quiet and secluded courtyard for the treatment of their illness. It's only natural that doctors charge. Seeing that Jing Yunjiao accepted the money, the family was obviously relieved. Jing Yunjiao then left to visit the other families. The other 4 families' conditions weren't as bad as the boys. Jing Yunjiao also wrote prescriptions and told them to take it on time every day. They would come back next week for a follow-up visit. But the same thing was that the consultation fee of the other 4 families wasn't low either. Just the consultation fee alone was 10,000 yuan each. Even if there were 2 families who doubted her ability, they were still polite because of Elder Su. Chapter 269. Su Laozi directly raised her fee standard to a level that ordinary doctors couldn't reach. In the evening, he specially asked Uncle Xing Yuan to call her and explain it to her. There are many people in the world who will think that there is no good thing cheap, especially a little girl like her. If she only charges a few dozen yuan for diagnosis, I'm afraid that even if she cures the patient will not dare to recommend her to others. If they charge more money, they will show a trace of respect. They think that she must have a good place. They even think that money is a guarantee. Otherwise, the family members of the patients will think that she is a child who is fooling around. Jing Yunjiao didn't know whether to laugh or cry after hearing it, but he had to say that old man Su thought carefully. Of course, the old man didn't let her be a black-hearted doctor who only knew how to make money. According to him, she could charge according to the patient's situation. Anyway, she had medical skills and had the absolute initiative. It was not impossible to decide according to the patient's ability to pay. After being taught by Su Laozi, Jing Yunjiao suddenly became a lot more open-minded. But Su Laozi was afraid that Jing Yunjiao would run this way thoroughly in the future. On this Sunday, Jing Yunjiao was so busy that the sky turned dark. Going to school is a kind of relaxation for her now. Early in the morning on Monday, more than 100 people gathered outside the school. Just look at these people holding banners with a face of justice. The students passing by are puzzled. They don't know what happened at all. They all stand curiously to watch the situation from afar. Jing Yunjiao and Su Chu arrived at the school gate and saw the big words on the banner. They stopped. Women's Academy despises the poor and loves the rich. They abandon their own parents. They have talent but no virtue. Su Chu didn't think about it at all. Seeing Jing Yunjiao stop, he asked suspiciously, "What's the matter with you, cousin?" "Well, you stay away from me, or you will be in trouble later," Jing Yunjiao said. Among them, there were 20 to 30 villagers from Water Village. Previously, they had been beaten black and blue by her, so of course, she could recognize them now. There were also dozens of people. Some were holding microphones, some were holding pens and paper, and some were carrying cameras. The rest were activists who came from nowhere. They cheered for her and kept asking about the meaning of education. Aside from these, there were also some parents who were sending their children to school with concerned looks on their faces. There were also school leaders who were trying their best to deal with the situation. It was very lively. Why? Su Chu didn't understand. But when she saw Jing Yunjiao staring at the crowd, her face fell. It can't be, right? Could they be talking about? Was it his cousin? Look at the banner. Despise the poor and love the rich? Nonsense. Su Chu was instantly enraged. She clenched her fists and said, "I'll help you to reason with them. What right do I have to criticize you? They're not your biological parents." They all knew that Jing Yunjiao got the test results the night before yesterday. They didn't have a good impression of the family who claimed to be relatives. You know the truth, but others don't know. Jing Yunjiao converged her coldness and suddenly smiled. It's good to make such a big deal now. The bigger the trouble, the more miserable the family will fall. Jing's life is really hard, but poverty is not the reason to be vicious. There are many poor people in the world, and she used to be. Cousin, what are you going to do? Show them the test results? Su Chu asked first, and then she associated it with herself. In an instant, her eyes became bright. Don't worry. If you want to destroy people, you must first make them crazy. Some people are still far away. Jing Yunjiao took off her school bag from her back and handed it to Su Chu. She smiled peacefully, and then raised her eyes and walked over. Chapter 270. Su Chu was still pondering over Jing Yunjiao's words when the person beside her walked into the line of sight of those people. She suddenly felt that the lonely Jing Yunjiao at this moment was like a little sheep. and those who bullied her were vicious jackals with bloody mouths, waiting for her to fall into the trap. Suchu's heart was stifled with anger. Her cousin was not alone. The next second, Suchu took small steps to catch up. It's her. It's this Jing Yunjiao. She's the first in your school. One of the villagers pointed at Jing Yunjiao and said. In an instant, the others turned their heads at the same time like automatic instruments, and those cameras instantly made ka-ka sounds. The flashes were incomparably dazzling. You're Jing Yunjiao? May I ask if Jing Taijun and Wang Xinfeng are really your parents? Classmate Jing Yunjiao, with what kind of mentality did you abandon your biological parents and sever ties with them? I heard that you even used your own brother to threaten your parents. Is this true? Classmate, is your boyfriend a rich family's son? Didn't he personally come to send you to school? Why did you violently beat up the villagers in Shuichang village to vent your anger? Every sentence was like a sharp blade, and even Suchu's heart bled when she heard it. It was the first time that Suchu had seen such a horrible scene. There were so many people, and they clearly looked very kind. But the words they said were not the slightest bit considerate, as if they had a crazy hobby of digging into other people's private affairs. Fuck. A group of beasts. Suchu was stunned and did not know how to help, but Xiao Haiqing had unknowingly walked to her side and scolded. The next moment, Xiao Haiqing directly pushed away the people in front of her and barged in, standing side by side with Jing Yunjiao. Although she might not be able to help much, Suchu felt that if there was one more person by Jing Yunjiao's side, it should be a lot calmer. With this thought, Suchu also squeezed in and stood on either side of Jing Yunjiao with Xiao Haiqing, staring at the crowd with a pair of eyes filled with hatred. The school's leaders were already at their wits' end. Teacher Qi stood in the corner with Qi De Yong beside him. Teacher Qi's back was slightly bent as he sighed. In front of him was a reporter who kept asking, "You're Jing Yunjiao's class teacher, right? May I ask how is her performance in class? Don't you think it's very unique? Are you done? Jing Yunjiao is very good. How did she offend you?" Qi Deong saw his uncle trembling and immediately shouted angrily. He and Jing Yunjiao had been in the same class for quite some time, and the two of them were considered to be Teacher Qi's right-hand men. One was the class monitor, and the other was the class representative. Because of this, he had many opportunities to talk to Jing Yunjiao. Although she was sometimes violent and had a cold temperament, he always felt that she was a person who was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. It was just that others had not approached her heart, and she was not as bad as these people said. After Qi Deong shouted, the reporter seemed to have found a loophole and directly asked Teacher Qi, "This is also your student, right? Teacher Qi, don't you think your education is a failure?" Teacher Qi trembled again. Qi Deong was so angry that his eyes turned red, and he did not dare to say anything more. These reporters were too good at twisting their words, as if the students were immoral no matter what they said or did. At this moment, Jing Yunjiao, who was in the crowd, did not make a fuss, nor did she panic. She stared coldly at everyone present, remembering every face present. She was a very vengeful person. Chapter 271. Her cold gaze seemed to have frozen the air. Looking at her young face, the reporters suddenly felt a pressure in their hearts and became inexplicably nervous. "You can ask one by one. I promise to tell you everything I know," Jing Yunjiao said indifferently under everyone's watchful eyes. As soon as she said this, the reporters' faces lit up. They looked at each other and quickly raised their hands. Raised their hands? The reporters were also stunned. They didn't know why they did this subconsciously. Logically speaking, when facing such a person, they only needed to throw out a few sharp questions. Why did they have to raise their hands and wait for her to choose? She wasn't some powerful person who was highly respected. How strange. "You ask." Jing Yunjiao pointed at a person and asked. The reporter who was pointed at felt his heart skip a beat. He quickly said, "Jing Yunjiao, I heard that you were an orphan when you were young. When you grew up, you cut ties with your adoptive parents, right?" "That's right." Jing Yunjiao was very straightforward. With a simple explanation, the people below were all excited. They were obviously happy that Jing Yunjiao cooperated with them, but in their hearts, they felt that it was a pity. Such an outstanding-looking girl actually did so many immoral things. Then what kind of attitude did you have when you cut ties with them? They raised you for more than 10 years. Don't you have any feelings of gratitude in your heart? The reporter quickly asked. Jing Yunjiao suddenly smiled. That smile had a sense of vicissitudes and isolation, with some indifference and ridicule. It swept across the reporter's face, making the reporter panic. Did he ask the wrong question? Of course I have gratitude. Of course there is gratitude. Yi Qin picked me up and fed me for so many years. The debt of gratitude can't be repaid. However, Yi Qin is Yi Qin, and the Qiao family is the Qiao family. Qiao Weiman has been scolding and beating me all these years as my stepfather. Back then, he caused a scene at school. The decision to sever ties was made by the town's leaders. If you think there's a problem, you can go to the town to check and see if they acknowledge it. Jing Yunjiao wasn't stupid enough to blindly smear the Qiao family's name. After all, there were some people who didn't experience the torment of those 10 years. They didn't know how a non-biological daughter who didn't receive any love had to suffer in order to live until now. They were now standing on the moral high ground, thinking that she was picked up from the streets, so any disobedience was wrong. You mean to say that it was someone else's decision to sever ties with you, and it had nothing to do with you? But Qiao Weiman, who is your adoptive father, accused you of being unfilial. Your sister also said that the whole family treats you very well. And your brother also thinks that you are willful and reckless. What do you have to say about this? The reporter's mouth was like a machine gun, shooting nonstop with a doo-doo-doob sound. So, whatever they say is the truth. Because I'm an orphan, everything I say is a distortion of the truth, right? Jing Yunjiao maintained her smile as she retorted with a question. It sounded like a murmur, but it caused the hearts of others to tremble. Jing Yunjiao, are you trying to quibble now? The reporter did not back down. Okay, I won't quibble. Then get my adoptive father and siblings to come out. We will confront each other, Jing Yunjiao said. She had long felt that the Qiao family, the Jing family, and those people were like actors waiting to appear. They had been waiting in the corners for a long time. Once needed, they would immediately appear in front of people and hit her when she was down, so that she would be doomed eternally. Unfortunately, she, Jing Yunjiao, was here to take her life this time. Their ruckus made her understand that no matter how miserable some people were, they would still be evil. Their bad habits would even worsen. Since that was the case, what was the point of keeping them? Chapter 272. These reporters never thought that Jing Yunjiao would so calmly request a confrontation. Their original plan wasn't like this. They wanted to wait for Jing Yunjiao to embarrass herself and admit her mistakes so that her adoptive father would appear. At that time, her adoptive father would definitely forgive her. They would also be able to show their love and tolerance as a family and spread this kind of good virtue. But now that Jing Yunjiao had spoken, they could not agree. Otherwise, when this news was released, some people would think that they were making up rumors. The next moment, Qiao Weiman and Qiao Hongye were pushed out by the crowd. Qiao Weiman was wearing a clean suit that had been specially groomed. His hair was also styled. Although he was nearing 40 years old, he looked very energetic and young. His head was raised and his chest was puffed out. His clean leather shoes were shiny as if he was a leader inspecting. When he looked at Jing Yunjiao, disgust flashed in his eyes. But in the next moment, he continued to put on an act, looking like a very reasonable and kind father. Qiao Hongye was also standing beside Qiao Weiman. She was wearing a pink dress with a small jacket wrapped around her upper body, revealing her fair calves. She was also wearing a pair of high-heeled sandals that weren't too exaggerated, making her look slender and elegant, natural and unrestrained. Her gentle and cute face contrasted sharply with Jing Yunjiao's cold and arrogant appearance, making her look like a little sister next door. This made everyone feel that she was definitely a virtuous little girl who was easy to get along with. It was this pair of father and daughter, revealing the exact same temperament and personality in their bones. As for Qiao Zizhou, he didn't come. No matter how stupid Jing Yunjiao was, he knew that it wasn't that Qiao Zizhou didn't want to come, but that he didn't like being surrounded by so many cameras. If he became famous because of this, he would definitely lose face. Moreover, he didn't know Jing Yunjiao at all, so he didn't want to make a mistake. But if Jing Yunjiao admitted his mistake in front of everyone, perhaps this younger brother would show his face to express his magnanimity of not bickering with a woman. That's why genes are sometimes really powerful. At this moment, Xiao Weiman and Xiao Hongya's appearance attracted the attention of many people. Those reporters, villagers, and the group of relatives and friends who came out of nowhere looked at Jing Yunjiao with disgust, looking as if they wanted to see what else he had to say. At this moment, Xiao Hongya wanted nothing more than to laugh out loud. She wanted nothing more than to point at Jing Yunjiao's spine and curse her for being a slut. The day before yesterday, Jing Yunjiao had broken her herbal tea, but yesterday, someone had come to the door. Only then did she know how big of a mess Jing Yunjiao had made. Someone posted a post on the internet with Jing Yunjiao's name written on it. The post said that Jing Yunjiao despised the poor and loved the rich, so he abused his biological parents, relatives, and friends. The post even included a copy of the paternity test results, which had the stamp of a big hospital in Ning City, so it couldn't be faked. Similarly, there were also some photos of his parents' daily lives to prove how hard the couple worked to raise their family. After the post came out, it went viral for some reason. Then, some reporters went to the Qiao family to ask around. Seeing that Jing Yunjiao had become so famous, she was simply going crazy with joy. So what if she was arrogant and egotistical? From today onwards, she would become a complete joke. The school wouldn't tolerate her, and the society wouldn't tolerate her. Everyone would want to beat her up, even more than she had in the past. Xiao Hongya's eyes were burning, and her little face was flushed red with excitement. She looked extremely cute. Sister, just admit your mistake. Everything will be fine after you admit your mistake. Everyone will forgive you. Xiao Hongya opened her mouth amidst everyone's expectations. Chapter 273. Kind and sensible. This was the label that everyone had given Xiao Hongya at this moment. Jing Yunjiao lowered his head and looked at her, coldly opening his mouth. You guys found this kind of thing to slander me? How can you believe her words? Xiao Hongya's face paled, and everyone was stunned. The reporters were even more excited. This was evidence of Jing Yunjiao's arrogance. Saying such words to his sister who had been with him for more than 10 years, bullying his biological parents, and beating up villagers wasn't something that he couldn't do. Caw-caw. The sound of camera taking became more and more incessant. Jing Yunjiao, you're too much to your own sister. Don't tell me you think that grades represent everything? The reporter immediately provoked. Grades can't. But I've never felt that there was a problem with my character. Jing Yunjiao said matter-of-factly, on the contrary, I feel that there's something wrong with your eyes. Your three views are all twisted and sinister. You guys went to the Qiao family and even asked them to prove how vile I am. Simply laughable. Don't tell me you guys didn't check when you were looking for someone? How is Xiao Weiman's reputation in town? How is Xiao Hongya's reputation? Especially Xiao Hongya, what kind of person is she? Don't you care? You guys have the advantage in numbers, and I'm alone. So I'm in the wrong? I'd like to ask, what right does Xiao Hongya have to question me? Jing Yunjiao approached Xiao Hongya and said sternly, you dropped out of school, right? Don't tell me you've forgotten why you dropped out? Or do you want me to help you recall it bit by bit? Fine, you won't say it, you'll hide it, and you'll continue to pretend. Then I'll do it. You hooked up with a hoodlum called Xiaoxing. Since junior high, you've been harassing me outside of school. Sometimes you'd beat me up, sometimes you'd rob me. At that time, I was weak and didn't dare to say anything. There was no one at home to support me, so I could only endure it. After I entered senior high school, your actions became worse, causing me to lose all my reputation in the school. Even after I used all my means to explain away the rumors, there were still some people who believed those nonsense. Xiao Hongya, do you think that you can hide your true nature and the things you've done just because you're wearing a gorgeous dress? I still have a copy of the photo of you and Xiaoxing together. You have real evidence of stealing and destroying things everywhere. Oh right, I almost forgot. You and Xiaoxing kidnapped a girl. Not only did you ruin your own innocence, you also ruined another person. Do I have to take out all the evidence for you to review again? Jing Yunjiao finished speaking in one breath, which caught everyone off guard. After he finished speaking, He smiled coldly and took the bag from Suchu. He took out a stack of things and pointed them at the camera one by one. Xiao Hongye stared dumbfoundedly at that thing. She reached out to snatch it, but Xiao Haiqing directly flung her aside. Xiao Hongye couldn't stop her at all. After everyone had seen it clearly and was sure that the camera could record everything, he threw it out. One photo after another fell from Xiao Hongye's head like dancing snowflakes. The edges of the paper were incomparably sharp. Under Jing Yunzhao's deliberate force, they left streaks of blood on Xiao Hongye's face. It was a ghastly sight. Xiao Hongye's whole body was trembling. Her mind was blank. Jing Yunzhao actually left a copy of the photo? Back then, he didn't hand over all the videos and photos to the police? That's right. How could someone as sinister as Jing Yunzhao let her off? But she was too much now. She actually took out those unsightly things in front of so many people. What was she going to do in the future? This matter had blown up so big. There were even live broadcasts here. How was she going to face others in the future? Chapter 274. Xiao Hongye's eyes were filled with tears as she bit her lips. She looked like a doll that had been abandoned by the world, as if she would shatter into pieces in the next second. Jing Yunzhao sneered. Tell me, can you believe her words? A person who only knows how to scheme against her own sister since she was young. A person who only knows how to frame her sister since she was young. A person who only knows how to misbehave. Can you believe her? You didn't investigate clearly before questioning me. What right do you have to question me? Even if you ask a few more neighbors and find out what kind of person Xiao Hongye is, what have you done? Hearing her question my words is like hearing the prayers of the Virgin Mary. I can't wait to show it to everyone. Are you reporters? I think you're like evil people who have taken someone else's money and are here to find trouble, right? Jing Yunzhao's continuous words made the reporter's face turn red. This Xiao Hongye is actually such a wanton person? It can't be. But these photos are all true. When they first went to the Xiao family, this little girl called Xiao Hongye seemed to have just cried and looked a little pathetic. They didn't think much of it at that time and expressed their intentions. In the end, when she heard the three words, Jing Yunzhao, Xiao Hongye cried even harder. Only then did they know that it was Jing Yunzhao who had bullied her. This little girl looked very gentle and didn't seem like a bad person at all. In addition, this matter was now known by everyone. Many newspaper companies and website reporters were waiting to dig up more information. After snatching Xiao Hongye's interview, they didn't care too much. In this day and age, who liked to hear nice words? It wasn't that no one went to the neighbors, but their supportive words were not worth mentioning compared to the scolding comments online. Even if the neighbors came out to prove that Jing Yunzhao was a good person, no one would believe them. On the contrary, if she was evil to the extreme, it would attract more attention. Just like now, a portion of the surrounding crowd were online busybodies who had specially come to support the Jing parents. This reporter was speechless by Jing Yunzhao's words. What everyone wanted to say was also disrupted. Jing Yunzhao, does this mean that you think it's natural for you to sever ties with the Qiao family? The first reporter asked with a guilty conscience. That's right. Jing Yunzhao raised his head and puffed out his chest. His voice was loud and clear. But the grace of raising her is greater than the heavens. The reporter thought to himself and could not help but say it out loud. Jing Yunzhao sneered. He bent down and rolled up his trousers, revealing his knees. Do you know where this scar came from? Xiao Weiman kicked me and made me kneel on the glass shards. At that time, I was not even 10 years old. At that time, the ground was covered in my blood. I didn't dare to move at all because even the slightest movement could make me feel the glass shards moving in my flesh. You've never tried it before. If you don't believe me, you can ask the neighbor. I picked these glass shards myself. I was afraid that I would become a cripple after the incident, so I secretly asked the neighbor's auntie to apply medicine for me. She even brought me for an injection. As he spoke, Jing Yunzhao rolled up his sleeves. You can say that I got those scars because I wanted to have fun. I don't have any witnesses, so I can't refute. What about these? 1, 2, 3, 7 to 8 cigarette scars, old and new. It can't be that I got them myself, right? Chapter 275. Jing Yunzhao's arm was especially slender. It was so slender that it looked like it would break with a gentle force. Just looking at her figure made one's heart tremble and ache. Her skin was fair, so the cigarette scars were very obvious. They looked quite old, with 7 or 8 of them. They were very messy, and one could tell that the burns were very serious. The moment the wounds were exposed, the reporter who spoke was speechless. A 16-year-old girl was at the age where she cared about her appearance. How could she have such obvious injuries? It was no wonder this girl was dressed so conservatively. He gulped and retracted the microphone. The surroundings fell silent for a moment. They had never encountered such a strange situation before. A large group of people were looking for trouble with a little girl, but in the end, they were left speechless by this little girl. Her words had a shocking power, causing a trace of guilt to surface in the hearts of those who heard it. However, she did not cry or make a fuss. Instead, she had a very light smile, which made them feel somewhat at a loss. Generally speaking, the people they interviewed, regardless of whether they were persecuted or not, would immediately cry when they saw the camera to let others see their grievances. However, Jing Yunzhao was too abnormal. Jing Yunzhao, you're talking nonsense. You're so vengeful. If you're really wronged, why don't you complain to others? Now, you're lying in front of so many people. You're simply heartless. Xiao Weiman pointed at Jing Yunzhao's nose and scolded. I don't talk to others because I know they don't care about me. Those people won't help me. From my adoptive father's point of view, you will always be right in the hearts of others. Because you did a good deed more than 10 years ago, no one will blame you even if your good deed is riddled with holes. That's why I kept silent in the past, Jing Yunzhao said. Now, it was different. They were all reporters. They could destroy her, but similarly, they could destroy the Qiao family. With that said, Jing Yunzhao's smile at that moment looked abnormally sad in the eyes of others. Su Chu, who was beside him, was crying. She was so sad that she could die. Xiao Haiqing's eyes were red. Looking at Xiao Weiman, she also thought of that dispensable father of hers. It's not like that. It's not like that. Sister, why did you say that? These photos were obviously forged by you. Xiao Hongye cried and shook her head, still struggling. Whether it's forged or not, you can go to the police station and ask. I did it properly. Jing Yunzhao coldly snorted. Xiao Hongye's legs went soft. Why did things develop in the other direction? Why is Jing Yunzhao so eloquent? How can she be so calm? Also, why did she carry these photos with her? How could that be? Originally, as long as Jing Yunzhao said something wrong, or as long as Jing Yunzhao didn't speak as calmly as she was now, she would cry and scold her. Then, her unfilial behavior would spread even more fiercely. At that time, she wouldn't be able to make a comeback no matter what. In the future, she could also use this opportunity to push all the dirty water on her onto Jing Yunzhao. But the result was actually like this? Xiao Hongye was stunned. Xiao Weiman also didn't understand the situation. He knew that his eloquence wasn't as good as Jing Yunzhao's. He grabbed the reporter and said angrily, "What nonsense did you let her say? You let her apologize?" The reporter's mouth twitched. She leaned to the side and made room for someone else. She didn't have the ability to ask anymore. Let her digest what Jing Yunzhao had just said first. Also, she was really frightened just now. The injuries on Jing Yunzhao's legs and arms were really serious. It was a ghastly sight. She was only 16 years old. She couldn't imagine how a child could endure such abuse. Chapter 276. The reporter took a step back. Another reporter saw that everyone was in a daze and immediately squeezed Xiao Weiman to the side. He opened his mouth and said, Jing Yunzhao, even if what you said before was true, this isn't a reason for you to despise the poor and favor the rich. If your adoptive parents didn't treat you well, then when your biological parents came looking for you, you should cherish them even more. But why did you refuse to acknowledge them? Jing Yunzhao thought of the most authoritative paternity test in his bag and felt extremely relieved. Hearing this question, he only felt that it was funny. Then why do you think I should acknowledge them? They are your biological parents. The reporter said matter-of-factly. How many children does the Jing family have? Jing Yunzhao smiled and suddenly felt that it was a little irrelevant. The reporter was stunned. 3? It should be 3, right? When he went there, he only saw a little girl, but he heard that they had a son and a daughter. The 3 children all had to go to school, so their lives were very difficult. Oh, you also know that there are 3. They said that I am the eldest daughter of their family, the one who was abandoned because they valued boys more than girls. I tried to accept them, but Auntie Wang said that as the eldest, I should drop out of school and go home to take care of my younger brother and serve him. The first thing they did when they found their abandoned daughter was not to compensate her for what she lacked, but to take back what she had relied on herself. If it were you, would you do that? The reporter shook his head. Jing Yunzhao, are you admitting that your thoughts are extreme? You are the daughter of the Jing family. Your parents don't have the ability to support 4 children, so it is natural for them to do that. You can't refuse to acknowledge your biological parents because of these external reasons, right? Moreover, your parents tried to repair your relationship with you, but you used your younger brother's safety to threaten them. This is the truth, right? The reporter said. As soon as he said this, a reporter beside him interrupted. It wasn't just a threat. Jing Yunzhao, you and your rich boyfriend beat up these villagers and injured them one by one. Shouldn't you apologize to them? Logically speaking, these villagers were all Jing Yunzhao's elders. For a junior to do such a thing, it was simply unbelievable. Jing Yunzhao looked at the 2 male reporters and said, "You just asked me a question, and he felt that you didn't ask enough. So he asked one more question on your behalf. You 2 are on the same side. So can I say that you 2 are in a relationship? My friend saw that I was being threatened by the Jing family, so she stepped forward to help me. Because we are standing together, does that mean I am seducing a rich man to be my boyfriend? Can your theory be any weirder? That's different. We're both men. What's the difference? There's also love between people of the same gender," Jing Yunzhao casually replied. After saying that, many people blushed. Even if there's nothing between you 2. But isn't it wrong for you to beat up your parents and relatives? Jing Yunzhao, look at your parents. They're already so old and have to raise 3 or 4 children. Your younger siblings are still in primary and middle school. They've been looking for you for so long, yet you're treating them in such a way. Don't you have a conscience? They gave you life, yet you despise them for being poor. The reporter suddenly transformed into a righteous little angel. At this moment, while the reporter was complaining tearfully, Jing Taijun appeared with his family of 5. Looking at Jing Yunzhao, they suddenly knelt down together. "Xiao Yun, Mom was wrong. Come home with Mom. Okay?" Wang Xian Fong cried at the top of her lungs. Chapter 277. In the family of 5, Jing Taijun and Wang Xian Fong were kneeling in front, while the 3 little ones were kneeling behind them. Jing Xiu's body was trembling. Her eyes were red. Seeing so many people, she was clearly very scared. She bit her lips, and her hand was tightly held by Jing Ling. Jing Mingkai was somewhat indignant. He had never knelt since he was young, but this time, he was kneeling to a big sister that he didn't like. Wang Xian Fong's face was filled with suffering, and Jing Taijun looked even more pitiful than her. An unyielding big man, the moment he knelt, his face was filled with humiliation and helplessness, making the people around him cry. Xiao Haiqing and Su Chu were also shocked, but in the next second, they glared angrily. Xiao Haiqing subconsciously wanted to speak, but after thinking carefully, she took back her words. Let them kneel. That's how it should be. The more you say, the more mistakes you make. Xiao Yun, if you like to go to school, then even if we have to sell everything, we will still support you. Before, Mom only said those words in a moment of anger. Don't take it to heart. Wang Xian Fong wiped her tears and continued, Child, no matter what you did wrong, you are still a member of our family. It's all our fault. If we found you earlier, then maybe you wouldn't have suffered so much. Jing Yunzhao stood in front of them, looked at them, and chuckled. Jing Yunzhao, are you still human? How can you still laugh now? These are your parents. In the crowd, someone angrily shouted. The others also had angry expressions, calming down from their previous emotions. Even if Jing Yunzhao's childhood was very difficult, this was not a reason for her to not recognize her parents. Moreover, this pair of parents were very kind, and they had such a sensible little brother and sister. What was there to blame? Jing Yunjiao acted as if he didn't hear it, only lowering his head and asking, "Today, these people, were you the ones who found them? Don't blame mom and dad. It was me. I was the one who posted it online." Jing Ling enthusiastically shouted. Jing Yunjiao nodded. No wonder. No wonder so many people appeared overnight. Jing Ling was just a 12-year-old girl. Even if she knew how to post, she probably did not have the ability to make such a big fuss. Perhaps the He family had also intervened to help her. It was very easy to find a water army online. After making such a big fuss, it attracted so many reporters and was also in the process of cleaning it up. Then you all agree that Jingling did those things? Jing Yunjiao asked again. Wang Xianfang said pitifully, "Child, we had no choice. I really didn't know what to do, so when I heard about the post from Lingling, I thought that everyone would help me persuade you, but I didn't expect it to blow up so big. Let's go back, everyone. Don't interview our family's Xiao Yun. She's a good child. She's only like this because she's been separated from us for too long." In the next second, Wang Xianfang cried out to everyone. Such a protective attitude made everyone even angrier. Jing Yunjiao, don't you feel ashamed? Your mother is kneeling on the ground at this moment, still thinking of you at all times. But you don't know what's good for you. You're simply unworthy of being a human. The enthusiastic netizens roared, then continued. I think we should let her reflect on herself today, and let her know how important the word filial piety is. That's right. Jing Yunjiao, why aren't you kneeling down and apologizing to your parents? Kneel down. Kneel down. Suddenly, there was a loud and oppressive shout. It was unknown who threw a small stone over, but it went straight for Jing Yunjiao's forehead. Chapter 278. Jing Yunjiao saw the stone flying towards him, but he did not dodge it. The stone hit his forehead and blood flowed out instantly. Bloody shocked everyone. The person who did it panicked as well. He turned around and hid in the crowd, putting on an act. Yunjiao, why didn't you dodge? Xiao Haiqing was shocked. But in the next moment, she suddenly understood her intentions. The injury wasn't heavy, but it was in the most obvious position, so it looked a bit shocking. The Jing family could use the trick of injuring themselves to gain the enemy's confidence. So could Jing Yunjiao. If she was injured now, then it wouldn't be long before these people would know how stupid they were. When the time comes, public opinion would stand on Jing Yunjiao's side, causing the Jing family's imposters to have no place to stand. However, her Yunjiao was too pitiful. He did not do anything wrong, but he had to be attacked and trampled on by these people. Jing Yunjiao raised his hand and wiped the blood off his forehead. He took out a wet tissue and wiped his hand. Kneeling to the heavens, kneeling to the earth, and kneeling to my parents, I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I kneel to these irrelevant people? Jing Yunjiao's figure was still cold and arrogant, her voice powerful and resonating. Jing Yunjiao, aren't they your parents? The reporter shook his head inwardly. This Jing Yunjiao couldn't be muddle-headed, right? Jing Yunjiao suddenly smiled. Her face that was stained with blood looked extremely sorrowful, causing people who saw it to tremble in fear. That gaze seemed to have the ability to penetrate, tugging at people's heartstrings. Unable to withstand a single blow, her voice softly attacked. How could they be my parents? Look at them. How do they look like me? I haven't seen them for more than 10 years. How can they be my parents? They forced me to this point and made me kneel in front of so many people. Is this what parents would do? I am a child without parents, but I don't lack love. If anyone can claim to be my parents, then do I have to call them father and mother every time I see them? I'll be busy. Jing Yunjiao scoffed. Xiao Yun, we are your parents. Have you forgotten? We went to do a paternity test. You've seen it before. The results. Wang Xinfeng hurriedly took out the paternity test portfolio from her bosom. Obviously, she had prepared it beforehand. Immediately, the test results were displayed in front of the camera, and there was a stamp from the hospital. Jing Yunjiao's name was written on it, and the final result was even clearer. The reporter was filled with disdain. Jing Yunjiao still refused to admit it. He had never seen such a thick-skinned girl. However, When he thought of his parents who were still kneeling beside him, the reporter kindly helped her up. Annie Wong, Uncle Jing, we all know that you are the victims. You must be heartbroken that your daughter has become like this, right? The reporter asked through the microphone. Wang Xianfang was a little nervous, but when she thought of the huge sum of money that would be transferred to her account, she calmed down and said, "That's for sure. My wife and I haven't been able to eat or sleep these days. Sometimes, we think that if only I didn't recognize him on the street. I think you must love your daughter very much to be able to recognize her at a glance." The reporter continued. Yes, yes. Although I haven't seen her for more than 10 years, she looks very similar to when she was young. I couldn't stop crying when I saw her, so I boldly went forward to acknowledge her. But if I knew this would happen, I shouldn't have. Wang Xianfang sighed. Annie Wang, don't say that. It's natural for parents to find their children. Also, we saw the post mention that your daughter was lost by your mother-in-law. She was just born not long ago. You must have been heartbroken back then. It hasn't been easy for you all these years, the reporter said warmly. Chapter 279. A mother's selfless love was great. Unfortunately, Wang Xianfang had insulted the word mother's love. Her love was all for her son, Jing Mingkai. The reporter saw that this family was so honest and asked a few more questions. When Wang Xianfang was almost done crying, the reporter turned to look at the three children. Little brother, do you like your sister? The reporter asked kindly. Jing Mingkai was a little devil, but he had never seen such a big scene. He was a little nervous and subconsciously said, I don't like her. The reporter was stunned, but he was also quite emotional. Little brother, your heart was also broken by this big sister, right? A child's performance can't be fake. It can be seen how much Jing Yunjiao hates the Jing family. Two little girls, do you think Jing Yunjiao's actions are right? What words do you have to say to your sister? The reporter asked again. Jing Ling's eyes were shining. I hope she can go home and take care of her brother and parents. Don't be stubborn and get along well with us. My things can be used by her. Of course, Jing Yunjiao's things had to be hers. The reporter was very satisfied and turned to Jing Xiu. Jing Xiu's body suddenly tensed up. Her eyes wandered and her mind was in a mess. She's not. Jing Xiu was a little scared and stuttered. Especially when she saw the blood on Jing Yunjiao's forehead, she felt even more guilty. If only she had told Jing Yunjiao earlier. If only she could have stopped her parents. She's not my sister. My sister is already dead. Jing Xiu cried and told the truth. Wang Xianfang and Jing Taijun heard this and their faces changed. What nonsense are you talking about? Jing Xiu immediately retracted her head in fear. The reporter sighed. It seems that the second sister of the Jing family is even more resistant to Jing Yunjiao. In her heart, this big sister's actions have already made her completely unable to accept. He didn't understand Jing Xiu's meaning at all. Jing Yunjiao, what else do you have to say now? Because of your willful actions, your parents are sad all day. Your siblings are discouraged and don't want to acknowledge your existence. They are still children. Mr. Reporter, you have a warm heart. Jing Yunjiao sneered. The reporter was baffled, but felt deeply honored. Jing Yunjiao, if you still have a little bit of humanity left, then apologize to your parents and admit your mistakes in front of everyone. Promise to be filial to your parents and treat your sister-in-law well in the future. Everyone's faces were filled with anger and anticipation. Jing Yunjiao was still a minor, still a child. Compared to pursuing responsibility and blindly condemning, if she could admit her mistake, then that would naturally be for the best. However, this incident also made them think deeply. Should education only focus on results? If everyone was like Jing Yunjiao, who would take care of the elderly in the future? Who will take care of the child? You have a good heart, but you are stupid, Jing Yunjiao added. Without waiting for the reporter's reaction, Jing Yunjiao took out the report she had prepared for him. Because of this report, you say that they are my parents. Then what about mine? Jing Yunjiao opened his report and stared at Jing Taijun and his wife. He said coldly, the report excludes the biological parents. Jing Taijun, can you please tell me why? Jing Taijun, and Wang Xianfang's reports were the same. However, Jing Yunzhao's report was different. It was obvious that it belonged to two completely different people. Jing Taijun trembled. You went to do a new report? No, this one is fake. Wang Xinfang reacted very quickly and immediately roared. Chapter 280. Wang Xinfang also turned pale with fright. She had no idea when Jing Yunzhao had taken their things for appraisal, but no matter what, she couldn't admit that the things in her hands were real. This one is fake? I have two more here. Jing Yunzhao took out two more. These three appraisal reports were personally stamped by the three most authoritative organizations in the capital. There is absolutely no room for doubt. As for the one in your hands, you know very well what it is. You keep saying that you are my biological parents, but from the moment I met you, you have never done what parents should do. On the first day I entered the school, you tried to force me to drop out. I refused, and you even stopped me from leaving? Wang Xinfang, there is no such unreasonable parents in this world. You are a fake, and you are kneeling in front of me, begging for forgiveness, and asking me to go home with you? I am not stupid. Didn't they want to hear the big news? Then she would reveal the big news. I violently beat up the villagers, but that was because these people surrounded me with iron weapons. If my friend and I didn't fight back, then we would all be injured. So I didn't do anything wrong. I used Jing Minkai to threaten Wang Xinfang, but that was because they always appeared in school, trying to kick me out of school, so I still didn't do anything wrong. They pretended to be my parents, used a fake report to threaten me, and bullied me. Now, even if I make her kneel for a day, kneel for a year, I still didn't do anything wrong. After Jing Yunzhao finished speaking, he suddenly stepped forward, pressed down with his hands, and hooked his leg. Suddenly, with a dong sound, the husband and wife's knees directly hit the ground. The ground in front of the school was flat and clean, without a speck of dust. They made such a big movement, but not even a speck of dust was stirred up. Wang Xinfang had willingly knelt before, and she had deliberately controlled her strength, so she didn't feel any pain in her knees. But now, Jing Yunzhao used a lot of strength. With such a hard ground and bones colliding, she only felt that her knees were about to split open. The sudden change caught everyone off guard. Xiao Haiqing simply wanted to clap her hands and cheer. The first female reporter who asked the question was already feeling a little embarrassed towards Jing Yunzhao because of the Qiao family's matter. Now that she saw that Jing Yunzhao's biological parents were fake, she simply wanted to crawl into a crack in the ground. The second reporter, on the other hand, was in a state of confusion. Was the previous paternity report fake? It can't be. However, he had also taken a look at the three reports that Jing Yunzhao had taken out. They were indeed the names of the three most authoritative paternity testing centers in Jingdu. They were professional organizations that could not be faked even with money. They were 100% trustworthy. Although the hospital in Serene City was big, it was only a hospital after all. They might not be proficient in biotechnology like a paternity test. For a moment, the male reporter didn't know what to say. The female reporter suddenly felt lucky that she was the first to ask. Although she had lost face because of the Qiao family, it was still better than being a fake parent. The most important thing was that this male reporter who came after her not only questioned Jing Yunzhao, he even displayed the spirit of bemoaning the state of the universe and pitying the fate of mankind, praising the parents and their child in detail. The feeling in her heart right now, there was no need to think about it. The others were also dumbfounded. The scene suddenly became very quiet. Although they were reporters, this time, they had indeed come with the intention of denouncing Jing Yunzhao. They had already thought of the questions, but now that such a situation had suddenly occurred, no matter who it was, they needed to calm down. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.